Chapter 831. Thinking of Duru's departure without saying goodbye, and Orochimaru's abnormal disappearance during this period of time, as well as Orochimaru's current predicament of living in Duru's body, Kuroda quickly had various speculations in his mind. When Danzo held the Kekki fusion ritual, or even longer, Orochimaru has been eyeing Danzo's body. This can be seen from the fact that Orochimaru secretly implanted the cursed seal in Danzo's body in order to erode Danzo's spirit body through the natural energy contained in the cursed seal. It's just that Orochimaru obviously underestimated the power of the Kekki fusion ritual that he and Hyojin designed together. The cursed seal that he implanted in Danzo not only failed to help him seize Danzo's body, but also allowed Danzo to suppress the spirit bodies of the 5 Kekki Jinkai ninjas that were absorbed into his body in the Kekki fusion ritual with the help of the natural energy contained in the Kekki fusion ritual, allowing Danzo to achieve the initial fusion of yin and yang, 5 elements, and 7 types of chakra. In the shinobi world, the fusion of chakra is the key to the leap in strength. As long as one can fully fuse different types of chakra, then any miracle can be created. And Danzo used the power of the Kekki fusion ritual to transform his old body into an almost immortal perfect ninja. Not only did he have 7 types of Kekki fusion ritual, but his eyes also evolved into a pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. If it weren't for Hyojin's interference, Danzo, who was determined to sacrifice 1,500 my ninjas outside the cave to continue the ritual, would have probably directly harvested a pair of Rinnegan in the ritual. It can be said that after the ritual, Danzo has surpassed Jishui, Itachi, and Hyojin's fire clone, becoming the perfect body that Orochimaru yearns for the most. Therefore, it is not difficult to guess that Orochimaru must have some kind of intersection with Danzo, and Orochimaru's current embarrassing situation shows that he must have suffered a big loss in the hands of Danzo. But this is also normal. After the ritual, Danzo has already become an inhuman. Even Kuroda found it difficult to deal with him. In the end, he had to use the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan of the Fire Release clone as bait to take down Danzo in one fell swoop. Listening to Hyojin's ridicule, Orochimaru not only did not get angry, but also calmly, Orochimaru admitted, but also Hyojin's Danzo, but also Danzo lost Dan. Hyojin secretly said, "Sure enough." However, Orochimaru's calm attitude surprised Kuroda a little. Orochimaru continued, "Let me give you a piece of advice. The current Danzo has surpassed the Kage level. He is as dangerous as the leader of Amatsukami and the leader of Akatsuki." Like everyone in the current shinobi world, Orochimaru doesn't know that Danzo has actually been killed by Hyojin, and even the Danzo's Manjikyu Sharingan was recovered by Hyojin and merged into a pair of Rinnegan. Hyojin naturally won't explain this. He just nodded thoughtfully and said, "Tell me the purpose of your visit tonight." Orochimaru's eyes narrowed. "I'm here to retrieve something." "Retrieve something?" After a pause, Hyojin asked in confusion, "What do you want to retrieve?" Glancing at the courtyard outside, Orochimaru said, "I left a curse mark on Red Bean's body, and now I want to retrieve it. You won't mind, right?" Hyojin stared at Orochimaru. He couldn't figure out the intention of Orochimaru's action. During the previous Battle of Mai, Orochimaru took the opportunity to invade the underground shelter of the village. While capturing Naruto and Hinata, he also implanted a heavenly curse mark on Red Bean's neck. This matter is not a secret among the high-level members of the village. Hyojin even checked the heavenly curse mark on Red Bean's neck. Seeing the confusion on Hyojin's face, Orochimaru smiled and explained, "You don't have to be so suspicious. I just want to retrieve a part of my power, nothing else." What Orochimaru said was indeed the truth. One of the main reasons he infiltrated Mai was to retrieve the heavenly curse mark on Red Bean's body. This terrible defeat at the hands of Danzo made Orochimaru deeply understand the shortcoming of his soul, and it also made him realize the foolishness of many of his previous actions. Splitting his own soul and implanting it into Yamato, Haku, and Red Bean's body along with a heavenly curse mark was one of them. although doing so gave him the opportunity to resurrect again and gave him the ability to become almost immortal. But there is always a loss, and the constant splitting of his own soul caused almost irreversible damage to his soul. This made him, who was clearly full of chakra, and his strength was firmly at the Kage level, but the strength of his soul was as weak as an ordinary Jonin. When facing Danzo's Sharingan, he couldn't even cast a single technique and was instantly subdued. Therefore, when he was resurrected, the first thing he wanted to do was to correct this mistake and retrieve all the divided souls, because this kind of fragile and uncontrollable immortality is not what he pursued. After thinking about it for a while, Hyojin felt that helping Red Bean remove the heavenly curse mark is not a bad thing. After all, the heavenly curse mark is only a semi-finished product that Orochimaru researched on nature energy. Not only does it have many limitations, but it will also gradually corrode the host, so he nodded and called Red Bean into the house alone. After entering the living room, Red Bean looked at Orochimaru vigilantly. But because Orochimaru is living in Duru's body, Red Bean only instinctively felt that Duru is a little strange, but she didn't recognize that the person in front of her is actually her teacher, Orochimaru. At this time, Hyojin said, "Red Bean, Duru can help you remove the curse mark on your neck." Just him? Red Bean looked doubtful, because even Tsunade was helpless against the curse mark on her neck. But because Hyojin Naruto is present, although Red Bean has some resistance in her heart, she still stood in the same place, wanting to see what ability this traitorous Uchiha Duru has to remove the curse mark on her body. Orochimaru didn't say anything, just smiled and walked in front of Red Bean, and then pressed his hand on Red Bean's neck. Huh! Red Bean instantly felt the curse mark on her neck burning. Hyojin activated Byakugan, and in the vision of his Byakugan, the restless chakra in Red Bean's body immediately divided into two, one of which frantically rushed towards the curse mark on Red Bean's neck. At this time, Orochimaru suddenly raised his hand, and a huge amount of chakra was pulled out from Red Bean's body. And as the huge amount of chakra was instantly pulled out, Red Bean's eyelids became heavy, and she fainted on the ground. On the other side, Orochimaru, who has absorbed the heaven curse mark in Red Bean's body and read what Red Bean has seen and heard during this period of time, grinned and said to Hyojin, "Kuroto, it seems that you are in a very bad situation. The Uchiha clan seems to be making a move against you. Naruto, there are only 2 days left for the double event. Students who still have monthly tickets, please support. Also, thank you to the students who tipped yesterday. Thank you, everyone." Chapter 832. During the period of time when his main body was killed by Danzo, Orochimaru lost the ability to actively explore the outside world, so he can only passively collect external information through the heavenly curse seals that reside in the bodies of Yamato, Haku, and Red Bean. After being resurrected by Duru, although he learned some of the recent developments in the shinobi world through the Sound Village's intelligence network, and also learned that Hyojin was selected as the 5th Naruto of the My Clan a few days ago, but he still didn't have a thorough grasp of the internal situation of the My Clan. It wasn't until now that Kuroto recovered the heavenly curse seal on Anko's body and read everything that Anko had seen and heard in the Konoha village during this period of time that Kuroto understood the chaos that Kuroto was currently facing. Being humiliated like this, the Uchiha clan will not swallow this insult. Is the old man really ready to deal with the 3 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan of the Uchiha clan? After a pause, Orochimaru deliberately patted his head and jokingly said, "Oh, I miscalculated. It should be 4 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan." Orochimaru is very clear about the matter of Itachi awakening the Manjikyu Sharingan, because when he kidnapped Sasuke and threatened Itachi with Sasuke's life, Itachi awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan. It's just that Itachi's body has always been one of his targets, so he has never disclosed this information to anyone. Listening to the information that Orochimaru deliberately revealed, Hyojin narrowed his eyes. 4 pairs? You mean that there are other Manjikyu Sharingan hidden in the Uchiha clan? A sly light flashed in Orochimaru's eyes, and he said faintly, "In dealing with Uchiha, our interests are the same. I can help you, and the condition is very simple. I only need a pair of Manjikyu Sharingan for research. People are like this, the more they can't get it, the more they desire it. The more Orochimaru tries his best to obtain the Sharingan, the more difficult it is for him to suppress his desire to obtain it." After pretending to weigh the pros and cons, Hyojin shook his head. "You don't need to interfere in the affairs of the village." The stage had already been set up, but Hyojin didn't leave a place for Orochimaru, so he didn't want Orochimaru to suddenly intervene in this matter and ruin his arrangements. Woo woo woo. At this moment, an alarm sounded in the village. Red flashed to the door and reported to Hyojin through the door. "Naruto-sama, the patrol on the outer wall reported that there is an intruder in the village." Hyojin glanced at Orochimaru and asked, "Did you kill someone?" Obviously, the so-called intruder was naturally Orochimaru in front of him. Orochimaru smiled and shook his head. Hyojin then said to Red, who was outside the door, "Remove the alarm." "Yes." Red also guessed that the intruder reported by the patrol team was most likely the apothecary Daodu in the house, so she immediately responded. Not long after, with Sujin's order, the siren that resounded through the night sky outside the house stopped abruptly, and the commotion in the village gradually subsided. Orochimaru looked at Hyojin meaningfully and said, "Think about my proposal. It's good for both you and me." After that, Orochimaru no longer continued to tempt Hyojin, but directly turned and walked out of the house. Looking at Orochimaru's back, Hyojin suddenly asked, "Has Do mastered the immortal technique?" From the beginning, Hyojin felt that there was something wrong with Do's aura. Even chakra was faintly discernible, as if it was covered with a layer of camouflage, blending into one with the surroundings. In this situation, Hyojin thought about it, and the only explanation was that Do had practiced the immortal technique that could freely control the energy of nature. Orochimaru stopped and said with a smile, "I didn't expect you to even notice this. Kuroto, you have really grown up. The immortal technique is indeed extraordinary, but it's not invincible." After a pause, Hyojin said in a sincere tone, "Teacher, please don't interfere in the affairs of the village. I don't want to kill you." Killing one's teacher was considered a tradition of the Naruto family. The 4 generations who were plotted against by Obsidian, the 3 generations who were killed by Orochimaru in the original space and time, Jiraiya who was killed by Nagato, and Orochimaru who was killed by Sasuke could all be regarded as examples of killing one's teacher. But Hyojin doesn't have this kind of bad taste, so if it's not necessary, he doesn't want to kill Orochimaru. Through the window of the living room, Orochimaru glanced at Hyojin's head that was being carved on the Naruto rock in the distance, and said with emotion, "Uchiha is not easy to deal with. I hope that you, the 5 generations, can last a little longer than the 4 generations. Don't die like the 4 generations." Hyojin nodded. "Well, I will be careful." With his back facing Hyojin, Orochimaru continued, "Uchiha's 4th pair of Manjikyu Sharingan belongs to Itachi Uchiha. He is the biggest threat in the Uchiha clan. His katana is much colder than his father's katana. Compared to him, the other 3 Manjikyu Sharingan of the Uchiha clan are nothing." Uchiha Clanland. Swish! A jonin of the Uchiha clan came to Fuyue's study room and reported, "Chief, the alarm in the village has been lifted." The news came from the 5 generations. The infiltrator tonight was just a drill arranged by the 5 generations. In the study room, Fuyue said lightly, "Got it, you can leave now." After the jonin left, Fuyue glanced at the few Uchiha clan members in the study room and said, "Continue the meeting." At this time, there were only 7 people in the study room, including Fuyue. They were Jishue, Shinichi, Itachi, and the other 3 elite jonin of the Uchiha clan. These 7 people are currently the highest level of the Uchiha clan, and the reason why Fuyue summoned all the high-level members of the Uchiha clan is to discuss the rebellion. However, the alarm that just sounded caused the secret meeting to be temporarily suspended for a moment. After the meeting continued, an elite jonin named Uchiha Yusuke said, I have found out that the four Kage will leave the village at the end of the month. Fuyue snorted coldly and said, they have been staying in the village for so long. It's time for them to leave. This meeting was originally held because of the Danzo incident and the attack of the Akatsuki village by the Akatsuki organization. But several months have passed, and the 5 great shinobi villages have searched almost all over the shinobi world, but they still haven't found any trace of the Danzo. Coupled with the fact that the Akatsuki organization broke through the Rock Village and captured the 4 Tails and the 5 Tails Jinchuriki, they went into hibernation again, so there is not much meaning for the 4 Kage to continue to stay in Mai. After all, the 4 Kage still have to deal with their own village affairs, and it is impossible for them to stay in Mai for a long time. Another elite Uchiha Jonin named Uchiha Hikari said anxiously, Patriarch, when the 4 Kage leave the village, we should take action. The clansmen down there can't wait any longer. Here's the first update. It's going to be a new week soon, and the leaderboards will be updated. Please recommend them. This is the last day of the double monthly vote event. Those who still have monthly votes, please support us. Thank you. Chapter 833. Listening to Uchiha meet Tsuru's instigation, Fugaku's eyes flashed with hatred and nodded. In the original world, Fuyue, the leader of the Uchiha clan, seemed to be the initiator of the Uchiha clan's rebellion. But in fact, his indecisive character was just being coerced by the angry clansmen, and his own desire to rebel was not strong. But now it was different. Previously, he was teased by the village in the vote of confidence, and was regarded by Fuyue as the greatest shame in his life. What made it even more difficult for him to calm down was that he was only one step away from the position of Naruto. Once ambition was born, it was difficult to extinguish. What's more, the current Uchiha clan, whether it was prestige or strength, was far beyond the original world, so Fuyue had both the desire and the confidence to set off a rebellion. Great! Our Uchiha can finally do something big. I've had enough of those be asterisk starts. Seeing Fuyue, who was sitting in the main seat, nodded. Several Uchiha elite ninjas below were excited. Fugaku also laughed heartily. Then, he quickly put away his smile and asked with a serious face, Have you completed the task that I've given you? Yusuke Uchiha immediately replied, I've already been to the prison, and I've privately bribed all the experts locked in there. As long as the guards are dealt with and they are free, they are willing to serve our Uchiha clan. Well, not bad. Fuyue nodded. The ninjas imprisoned in Konoha prison not only hate the village, but there are also a large number of them. There are many Chunin ninjas with good strength, and there are even several Jonin-level Tokubetsu ninjas. As long as they can be controlled, they will be a force that cannot be underestimated. Uchiha continued. According to your instructions, I secretly recruited a group of bounty ninjas and wandering swordsmen as cannon fodder to attack the Umbu. The number should be enough. Fuyue nodded again. The Uchiha clan lacked the strength of the middle and lower ranks and the cannon fodder for a protracted war. It was obvious that Fuyue, the clan leader of the Uchiha clan, would not let his own clansmen serve as cannon fodder. Therefore, a few days ago, he secretly sent the Uchiha Light Dipper out of the village in order to recruit a group of men of sacrifice. The remaining Uchiha elite Jonin, Uchiha Nobuwa, said with an embarrassed look on his face, I'm sorry, I tried to contact Dead but he still denied being a member of Amatsukami and was unwilling to disclose the contact information of Amatsukami. With that, he lowered his head. Sorry to disappoint you. The fact that there were 2-man GQ Uchiha in Amatsukami was no secret among the higher-ups of the village. That was why Fuyue had been hoping to contact Amatsukami and have the 2 Inferno return to his family. And once this was done, the strength of the Uchiha clan would be even stronger. Forget it, we'll talk about Amatsukami later. Waving his hand, Fuyue said solemnly, Let's discuss the battle plan first. This time, there are 3 main targets. The first target is Fudame Soma. The second target is the advisory elder group of the village. And the third target is the Umbu base. As long as these 3 targets can be quickly eliminated, the other problems are nothing to worry about. As soon as Fuyue's voice fell, Uchiha Nobuwa rushed to say, "Patriarch, let me go deal with Fudame-sama." Glancing at Uchiha Nobuwa, Fuyue pondered. In Fuyue's view, although Fudame-sama is a lot weaker than the previous Naruto, but in terms of physical techniques, he is still commendable. He is definitely an elite jonin. He is worried that Uchiha Nobuwa will not be able to quickly kill Fudame-sama. Seeing the hesitation on Fugaku's face, Kiwa hurriedly said, "Patriarch, Indame-sama is only slightly stronger in terms of physical strength. He is mediocre in other aspects. I have also investigated his shadow guards. They're just a few very mediocre Tokubetsu Jonin. Let me bring 4 Tokubetsu Jonin of the clan to ensure that we can solve Indame-sama and his shadow guards within half an hour." At this moment, Itachi, who has been silent all this time, suddenly interjected, "Let me deal with Fudame-sama." "Okay, then I will leave Fudame-sama to you." "Itachi, you have to remember, this is a battle of life and death related to the survival of the Uchiha clan. Don't let me down." Fuyue's expression softened, and he agreed to Itachi's request almost without hesitation. Because of the frequent sparring sessions in private, Fuyue is very clear that his eldest son is very strong, almost not inferior to his own Manjikyu Sharingan. The only thing he lacks is a pair of Manjikyu Sharingan. So letting Itachi deal with Fudame-sama is undoubtedly more reliable than letting Uchiha Nobuwa deal with Fuyue. Then, Fuyue turned to Uchiha Nobuwa, who had a disappointed look on his face, and said, "Nobuwa, you are responsible for raiding the Umbu base." Uchiha Nobuwa nodded. "Yes, Patriarch." Fuyue then ordered, "Hikaru, you are responsible for raiding the enchantment team, intelligence team, my hospital, and other institutions. Yusuke, you are responsible for raiding the Nara, Yamanaka, and Akimichi clans. Make sure that they are unable to support the Naruto building. The other clans in the village can be put aside for now, but the 3 clans must be preempted." "Yes, Patriarch." Uchiha Hikaru and Uchiha Nobuwa responded in unison. Finally, Fuyue's gaze fell on Jishue and Shinichi, and said in a deep voice, "Jishue, Shinichi, you 2 come with me to raid the Elder Advisory Group." In Fuyue's mind, the real problem is not Fudame-sama, nor the Umbu, but the 3 generations, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Kakashi. Although the 3 generations are old, their strength is definitely at the Kage level, and they're also experienced, calm, and seasoned. They have quite a lot of prestige in the village. If they can't be killed in one blow, it will inevitably bring a lot of trouble. As for Jiraiya and Tsunade, as the Sannin, there is no need to mention them. They're all top strong people in their prime, especially Jiraiya. He also has the rumored Sage mode. He's a target that must be killed first. As for Kakashi, who has recently been rumored to join the Elder Advisory Group, in Fuyue's view, he is also an opponent that cannot be underestimated. The battle not long ago is still fresh in his memory. Therefore, Fuyue feels that only by gathering the 3 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan in the family can they be wiped out in one fell swoop in a short time. Facing Fuyue's gaze, Jishue and Shinichi looked at each other and nodded. "Patriarch, have you forgotten about the Hyuga clan? Fudame-sama belongs to the Hyuga clan. I'm afraid they won't just watch us overthrow Fudame-sama." Seeing that Fuyue didn't mention the Hyuga clan in his deployment, Uchiha Iwa raised a question. Fuyue smiled and said, "Don't worry, the Hyuga clan will be dealt with by others. We don't need to worry about it." Itachi's eyes suddenly turned cold and asked, "Father, do we have other allies?" The second update. There are only a dozen hours left for the double monthly ticket event. Please support it with your monthly tickets. In addition, thank you to the classmates who gave gifts yesterday. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 834. Itachi's question reminded Fuyue of the embarrassment he felt when he first met that person. He didn't expect that he would be instantly subdued by the other party, even though he has the Manjikyu Sharingan. Under the shame and annoyance, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes, and his face gradually turned from sunny to gloomy. Fuyue knows very well that the other party is using him and the Uchiha clan this time, but in Fuyue's view, he is also using the other party. Moreover, Fuyue has made up his mind that once he straightens out the affairs in the village and ascends to the position of Naruto, he will definitely turn against the other party and take revenge for the humiliation he suffered when they first met. Noticing the subtle changes in Fuyue's expression, Itachi asked again, "Father, is there any other force that is cooperating with us in this rebellion?" Several Uchiha elite jonin in the study also looked at Fuyue one after another, eagerly waiting for Fuyue's answer. In the Uchiha clan, although everyone talks about the word rebellion, as if as long as the Uchiha clan dares to flip the table, they will naturally seize the power of the village, but in fact, only the upper echelons of the Uchiha clan present know that even if there are 3 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan in the clan, the success rate of rebellion is only 50 to 50. Therefore, when they heard from Fuyue's words that there may be other allies in the clan, the several Uchiha elite jonin were quite excited. Fuyue glanced at everyone and sternly said, "Worry more about the things you are responsible for. As for other things, don't ask too much." "Yes." Itachi and several Uchiha elite jonin bowed their heads and responded. Fuyue then said to Itachi, "Itachi, for this operation, the courage on your shoulders is very heavy. Don't make any mistakes. Although Fudame-sama isn't strong, he is still a Naruto. If we don't deal with him as soon as possible, then he will mobilize all the shinobi in the village to besiege our Uchiha. At that time, we will be in a dangerous situation." Itachi lowered his body. "Father, please rest assured." Fuyue didn't say anything else. He took a deep look at Jishue, who had been silent all this while, and waved his hand. "All right, you guys can go and get ready." Fuyue still couldn't figure out Jishue's attitude, so he decided to have Jishue follow him on the night of his rebellion. In his opinion, it was the village who had tricked the Uchiha clan this time by using despicable means to prevent the Uchiha clan from taking the position of Naruto. Therefore, he believed that the Jishue clan would not side with the village anymore. The only thing to worry about is the personal relationship between Jishue and Fudame-sama. Therefore, for the sake of safety, he arranged another Manjikyu Uchiha in the clan to give Shinichi a secret mission, to keep an eye on Jishue 24 hours a day and prohibit Jishue from contacting Fudame-sama. Watching his trusted clansmen leave the study room one by one, Fuyue looked at the scenery outside the window and thought proudly, "I will definitely lead the Uchiha clan to create history." Early the next morning, Hyojin announced something unexpected in the capacity of Fudame-sama Naruto. That is, he created a new position that has never existed in the history of the village. Agent Naruto. This Agent Naruto sounded a bit like the Agent Naruto that Danzo had previously held, but in fact, they were 2 different things. Agent Naruto was still essentially Naruto, but it lacked some legitimacy and legitimacy. Just like the previous Danzo, he had the power of Naruto, but did not have the official title of Naruto, nor could he carve a portrait on Naruto Rock. Agent Naruto was a new position under Naruto, responsible for assisting Naruto in handling daily affairs. When Naruto was absent or unable to make an immediate decision, he would temporarily replace Naruto and perform Naruto's authority, and the authority belonged to Naruto's deputy. At the same time that the new position of Agent Naruto was announced, Hyojin appointed Kakashi as his Agent Naruto. The reason why Hyojin did this was because of the agreement he had with 3 generations. After all, the 100 million from the village was already in his pocket, and he had already spent a lot of it, so he couldn't get it back even if he wanted to. So, naturally, he had to keep his word. Secondly, it was really not suitable for him to stand in the front, and the identity of Naruto was too restrictive. Not only did it limit his freedom, but it also limited his bloodline snare plan. In Hyojin's mind, nothing was more important than the bloodline snare plan. If he could only choose between the position of Agent Naruto and the bloodline snare plan, then he wouldn't hesitate to continue to promote his bloodline snare plan. Because as long as he completes the bloodline snare plan and becomes the 3rd bloodline snare plan in the shinobi world after Otsutsuki Kagaya and Otsutsuki Yuki, then he can have whatever he wants, and he can change the shinobi world into whatever he wants. Therefore, without waiting for Naruto's faction to propose it, he consciously threw away the burden of Naruto, and for the first time, created a new position of Agent Naruto, so that Kakashi can perform Naruto's authority and help him deal with Naruto's affairs. After learning this news, Hokage-sama and the others were both surprised and relieved. In fact, the Naruto's faction was also somewhat worried that Hyojin would be greedy for the power of Naruto and refuse to fulfill the agreement with 3 generations. After all, not everyone can ignore the temptation of the position of Agent Naruto, like Jiraiya and Tsunade. And this appointment of Hyojin obviously dispelled their doubts. And, at the same time, it also made them think that the decision to push Hyojin to the position of Agent Naruto is correct. The other clans in the village didn't have too strong of a reaction to this, even the Hyuga clan. In fact, during the vote of confidence, the clans already knew that it was the decision of the Naruto's faction to push Hyojin to the position of 5th generation. So they are also very clear that the 5th generation Naruto Hyojin was forced to make a compromise by Naruto's faction after being forced by the Uchiha clan. What's more, the 4 generations Naruto, as a war hero, was not able to fully grasp the power of Naruto, and was also restricted by the Council of Elders headed by the 3 generations. Not to mention Hyojin Naruto, the 5th generation Naruto of the Hyuga clan. Compared to the other ninja clans, the Uchiha clan who learned of this news had a different view. In the Uchiha clan's view, Hyojin was obviously doing this to prevent the village from losing Naruto after he, as Naruto, was suddenly attacked and beheaded. Therefore, the Uchiha clan had to change their deployment and included Kakashi, the newly appointed acting Naruto, as a key target in the first round of attacks. His priority was the same as Hyojin, the 5th generation Naruto. The first update is here. It's less than an hour before the end of the double monthly vote event. I implore the students who still have monthly votes to support me. Thank you. Chapter 835. Iruka walked to Hyojin's side and respectfully asked, Naruto-sama, the assessment can begin. Looking at the students on the field, Hyojin gently nodded. Well, then let's begin. Iruka nodded, then announced to the students on the field, this month's school assessment is a battle drill. Now I will announce the battle list. Hyuga Ningtsi versus Lilac. Uchiha Sasuke versus Uzumaki Naruto. Haruno Sakura versus Yamanaka Ino. Ziyuin versus Yakumo Pomelo. Soon, after Iruka announced the battle list, the students began to compete with their respective opponents. Perhaps because of Naruto's presence, the students in the battle drill were full of enthusiasm. They all wanted to perform well in front of Hyojin. Looking at this scene, Hyojin smiled. Since he appointed Kakashi as Naruto's representative, he has thrown all the official duties of Naruto to Kakashi and the advisory elder group without any burden. On the other hand, he hid in the ninja school and became the headmaster of the ninja school. He took the initiative to disappear from people's sight. Even the shadow guards around him were sent to Yu's side with the excuse of protecting his fiancée. Just like that, time passed day by day. Except for the Naruto rock that Hyojin was carving, which occasionally became a topic of discussion among the villagers. The topic of Hyojin Naruto, the 5th generation Naruto, had gradually begun to decrease. At the same time, the lively atmosphere of the Naruto election gradually dissipated as time went by. However, under the calm appearance of the village, there were turbulent undercurrents. The recent peace of the Uchiha clan not only did not make the village leaders feel at ease, but also made them realize that a storm was coming. For this reason, Naruto's faction held secret meetings every other day. In the first few meetings, Hyojin, the 5th generation Naruto, also attended, but gradually he was too lazy to go, and the advisory group of elders obviously did not expect Hyojin to solve the problem of the Uchiha clan, so Hyojin's absence was not too much of a concern. In the blink of an eye, 2 weeks had passed, and the end of the month was approaching. Inside the Naruto building, Uchiha Izumi walked into Naruto's office nervously, and everyone in Naruto's office looked at her in an instant. At this time, Tsunade asked, Izumi, have you found out anything? Uchiha Izumi nodded her head, stuttering as she replied. The time of the clan's rebellion should be at the end of this month. It's very likely to be the night the four shadows left the village. 3 generations took a puff of the pipe and said faintly, "So it's like this." When the other people in Naruto's office heard the exact news brought by Uchiha Izumi, their faces also became solemn. Although everyone had long expected that the Uchiha clan would rebel, when the day really came, everyone's mood was extremely complicated, not knowing whether what they were doing next was right or wrong. Seeing that everyone in the office had fallen into silence, Uchiha Izumi said with a sobbing tone, Is there really no way to save it?" "Sigh." Tsunade sighed softly and shook her head. Things had already developed to this point, and if they wanted to calm things down, one side had to admit defeat completely. Whether it was Naruto's faction or the Uchiha clan, it was obvious that they would not take the initiative to admit defeat. Zhuan Xiaochun did not have too many emotions and asked bluntly, "What about the deployment of the Uchiha clan's rebellion? Have you found out?" "Yes." Quan Uchiha Izumi nodded and recounted the information she had found out. "When they heard that the Uchiha clan had not only set their eyes on my prison, but also hired a group of bounty ninjas and wandering warriors outside the village, everyone frowned. This time, the Uchiha clan's preparation was obviously more thorough than before. Kakashi said, "If they really let those people into the village, it will be troublesome." Jiraiya echoed, "Those prisoners, bounty ninjas, wandering warriors, and so on may not be very strong, but they are definitely capable of creating chaos. If we let them spread out and create chaos in the village, I'm afraid we will need to invest twice the number of people to quickly extinguish them." Asma immediately said, "How can we waste our manpower on these garbage?" Zhuan Xiaochun said, "This is exactly the brilliance of the Uchiha clan. Once these cannon fodder spread out, their damage to ordinary villagers will not be weaker than that of regular ninjas. If we don't disperse our forces to deal with these cannon fodder, the casualties of the village will be incalculable." After saying that, Zhuan Xiaochun turned to 3 generations and said, "Hizen, we are too passive." 3 generations sighed. If Danzo was here, in the face of this situation, I'm afraid that the Uchiha clan would not be ready to take action. The village would have already taken the initiative to control the battle in the Uchiha clan's territory. 3 generations also understand that this is the safest approach at present, but preemptively striking before the Uchiha clan rebelled will undoubtedly bring about great consequences. With the current reputation of the Naruto clan, they can no longer afford such a huge loss of reputation. And this kind of thing, if no one proposes it, 3 generations also can't take the initiative to do so. After all, except for Danzo, no one present is willing to bear the blame of slaughtering the same village for no reason. Hearing that the situation is so unfavorable, Kuroto's hands and feet turned cold, and she was at a loss. She is not qualified to participate in secret meetings of this level, but because Hyojin, Naruto, is often absent, she attended the meeting on behalf of Hyojin, and then privately conveyed the contents of the meeting to Hyojin. After all, no one is more suitable to represent Naruto than her, the fiancée of Naruto. It is precisely because she entered the identity of Naruto's wife that she was more nervous than the others when she learned about the storm that the village is about to encounter. Noticing Kuroto's nervousness, Tsunade quickly comforted her. "Don't worry, everything will pass." At this time, 3 generations took out a document and handed it to Uchiha Izumi and said, "This is the defense map of some of the village's institutions. You can take it back first." While the village inquired about the Uchiha clan through Uchiha Izumi, the Uchiha clan was also using Uchiha Izumi's identity as Tsunade's disciple to inquire about the village's intelligence. Therefore, Uchiha Izumi is actually a double agent, which is also the reason why she can freely enter and exit the Naruto building, because it is tacitly approved by the Patriarch Fuyue. And in order for Uchiha Izumi to be able to inquire about the important information of the Uchiha clan's rebellion, the village will also give her some intelligence from time to time, and let her bring it back to the Uchiha clan to report, in exchange for the Uchiha clan's trust. Receiving the document handed over by 3 generations, Uchiha Izumi's heart was in a mess, and she thought in her heart, I may be the only Uchiha who betrayed the clan. Is it really right for me to do this? If Itachi knows that I betrayed the clan, he will definitely not forgive me. In the Uchiha clan, Jishuei, Shinichi, and Itachi, the three kaleidoscopes of the Uchiha clan, met in an empty training ground. After confirming that there is no one around, Itachi said in a low voice, Naruto-sama sent a message, asking us to go to him tonight to report the deployment of the clan's rebellion. The second update is to thank everyone for their support in the double monthly vote event. At this time, I will ask for recommendation votes. Everyone has recommendation votes. It is not a difficult task. I hope everyone will support me. Also, I would like to thank the students who tipped yesterday. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 836. At night. After dealing with the affairs of the ninja school, Hyojin returned home alone. He then took out a Thunder Escape clone from his storage scroll. This Thunder Escape clone was the one Hyojin had cloned when he was developing the Type 2 biological armor. At that time, Hyojin had received 150 million from the village for eliminating Jishuei and becoming Naruto. Coupled with the money he won from the bets, he was extremely rich. Therefore, when he was developing the Type 2 biological armor, he had cloned 5 Thunder Escape clones that were fused with Kakashi's cells. The one in front of him was the one with the best aptitude among the 5 Thunder Escape clones. In fact, the other 4 Thunder Escape clones were quite talented as well. However, for some unknown reason, the Earth Escape Chakra attribute in their bodies was very strong as well. It was almost on par with the Thunder Escape Chakra. Only the one in front of Hyojin was slightly better. Therefore, Hyojin brought this one out of the lab. TSK, I never thought that Kakashi would have such a high affinity with the Earth Element Chakra. When he thought about the fact that he had spent a lot of money on cloning 4 of the 5 Thunder Escape clones, Hyojin's heart ached because the Earth Element Chakra in their bodies was too strong. It was such a waste of money. Fortunately, there was still one that could be used. Therefore, his money was not spent in vain. After collecting his thoughts, Hyojin focused his attention on the Thunder Escape clone in front of him. Hairstyle is not within the scope of my cloning. How did this happen? The appearance of this Thunder Escape clone was very similar to Hyojin. The eye sockets were pure white eyes that lacked a spiritual body. However, the gray broom-like hair made Hyojin slightly speechless. After looking away from the Thunder Escape clone, Hyojin turned his attention back to the various Thunder Escape ninjutsu on the table. Since he became Naruto, Mai's ninjutsu archive was completely open to Hyojin. Other than some forbidden ninjutsu that he could not bring out of the archive, he could read and even take away the other ninjutsu at will. In addition, he had obtained various Thunder Escape ninjutsu from 4 generations Mizukage Goji, so the table in front of him was filled with all kinds of Thunder Escape ninjutsu. While looking through the Thunder Escape ninjutsu on the table, Hyojin was planning the development of the Thunder Escape ninjutsu. Lightning Release ninjutsu is actually very similar. In the original story, Kakashi developed Chidori and Sasuke perfected Chidori Flow, which already covers most of the ways to use Lightning Release ninjutsu. The first point is the development and application of Chidori ninjutsu. It is best to reach the extreme of Purple Lightning and the extreme of Kirin. The second point is the development and application of Chidori ninjutsu. It will be best to reach the extreme of Purple Lightning and the extreme of Kirin. The second point is to practice a bloodline limit that is related to Thunder Chakra. The third point is to explore the Thunder Chakra mode of Kyumo, so that all parts of the body can completely adapt to Thunder Chakra. These 3 points are not difficult, but they are not easy either. For the practice of Chidori ninjutsu, Hyojin has the experience of Kakashi, the developer of Chidori ninjutsu. Therefore, as long as the aptitude of the Thunder clone is good enough, he is confident that he could develop Purple Lightning before Kakashi. It's just that without the help of Celestial Phenomenon, he is not sure whether he can use Kirin in his normal state. As for the development of the Bloodline Limit Boundary, he had the experience of Ice Escape, Flame Escape, Magnetic Escape, Explosion Escape, and even the dust escape that represented bloodline elimination. Similarly, as long as there is no problem with the aptitude of the Thunder clone, it is not difficult to develop the mist-release bloodline limit based on Thunder Chakra. The only difficulty is to develop the lightning release chakra mode by himself. One must know that the lightning release chakra mode is a secret technique of Kumo's Reikage clan, and it is not something that ordinary secret techniques can compare with. Fortunately, Hyojin has mastered the Tenseigan chakra mode. This special chakra covers the whole body, stimulates the whole body, and greatly improves the overall combat ability. It can even be said that the Tenseigan chakra mode is the advanced form of the Thunder chakra mode. If Hyojin uses the Tenseigan chakra mode as a template to deduce the Thunder chakra mode, it is bound to be twice the result with half the effort. At this moment, Hyojin suddenly frowned. He noticed that someone is approaching. After becoming the 5th generation Naruto, the barrier team in the village carefully arranged a lot of perception barriers around Hyojin's small courtyard, so that Hyojin can easily perceive the situation around him, but it is very difficult for the outside world to perceive the situation in Hyojin's house. Coupled with Hyojin's identity as Naruto, no matter who it is, no one will directly break into Hyojin's house, so Hyojin directly studied the Thunder clone at home. Of course, there is one exception. Listening to the sound of footsteps going up the stairs, Hyojin quickly sealed the Thunder clone into the storage scroll and put away the various Thunder release ninjutsu scrolls on the table. Soon, Belle appeared at the door of Hyojin's bedroom. Hyojin smiled. "It's so late. Why are you here?" Belle said with a worried look. "It's about the meeting." "About the meeting?" Startled for a moment, Hyojin casually said, "The contents of the meeting. Didn't you already come to the ninja school and tell me about it at noon?" Belle said with a rare, serious face, "Kuroto, I have seriously considered it, and I think you should move back to the clan for the next few days. After all, the people in the clanland are the clansmen of the Hyuga clan. It is much safer than here." The news brought by Uchiha Izumi in the morning scared Belle, making her deeply realize that the Uchiha clan is really trying their best to rebel this time. And as the Naruto of the village, Hyojin is undoubtedly the main target of the Uchiha clan. In the courtyard, because of the arrival of Belle, the shadow guards, who were ordered by Hyojin to protect Belle, also followed Belle to the small courtyard of Hyojin's house and scattered around to guard the surroundings. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a sharp whistling sound, and 3 figures appeared in the courtyard of Sojin's residence. As the captain of the shadow guards, Red quickly appeared in front of the 3 figures and asked, "Who is it?" Before her voice fell, Red's pupils shrank rapidly because she recognized the 3 people who suddenly invaded Naruto's house in the middle of the night. It was Uchiha Jishui, Uchiha Shinichi, and Itachi Uchiha. Here's the first update, asking for recommendation votes. Everyone has this. It's just a small effort. Please support me. Chapter 837. When she saw the 3 intruders in front of her were Itachi Uchiha, the young clan leader of the Uchiha clan, and Uchiha Jishui and Uchiha Shinichi. The 2 kaleidoscopes of the Uchiha clan, Red's brain buzzed like a thunderclap. The Uchiha clan is rebelling. Tonight, now, in an instant, Red realized that a shocking change was about to happen. As the captain of the Shadow Guards, she had analyzed and judged the situation in the village. Therefore, she knew very well that the Uchiha clan, which had missed the opportunity to become the young clan leader of the Naruto clan, could rebel at any time. As for the young clan leader of the Uchiha clan, he followed the 2 kaleidoscopes of the Uchiha clan to sneak into Naruto's mansion in the middle of the night. This was almost an announcement that the Uchiha clan had officially started their rebellion. Swoosh, swoosh. Almost at the same time, Red Bean, Gale, and Shien of the Shadow Guards landed in the courtyard and landed behind Red. After recognizing that the intruders were Uchiha Jishui, Uchiha Shinichi, and Itachi Uchiha, the 3 experts of the Uchiha clan, Red Bean, Gale, and Shien immediately made the same judgment as Red. Oh no, Naruto-sama is in danger. After letting out a cry in his heart, without waiting for Red to give the order, Red Bean, Gale and Xian decisively changed their formation. Red Bean retreated in a flash, while Gale and Xian drew their swords instantly. Without saying anything unnecessary, they activated the teleportation technique and pounced on the 3 Uchiha clan members who had sneaked in. At the same time, Red, who was the captain of the Shadow Guards, guessed her teammate's plan without turning her head. She raised her hand and formed a hand seal. Since they had rehearsed this kind of crisis beforehand, the 4 of them had a tacit understanding. The moment they recognized the intruders, they acted without any communication. The 4 of them knew very well that the 3 Uchiha clan members in front of them were the strongest combat power of the Uchiha clan. With the strength of their 4-man team, it was impossible for them to defeat them. Therefore, there was only one thing they had to do. The 3 of them launched a fierce attack to attract their attention and cover Red Bean to send a signal flare to Naruto in the house and the village. To Naruto and the village. This will buy some time for Naruto and the village to react. In their opinion, whether the village can successfully extinguish the rebellion of the Uchiha clan this time depends on whether they can successfully send a warning. While quickly forming hand seals, Red saw Gale and Xian slashing their swords towards the enemy from the left and right, so he thought to himself, Gale, Xian's attack should be able to cover me to launch the Jinjutsu, and as long as I launch the Jinjutsu, even if Uchiha Jishue and Uchiha Shinichi have Manjikyu Sharingan, I should be able to delay them for a few minutes. In Red's opinion, as long as they are given a few minutes, no, as long as they are given a few dozen seconds, it will be enough for Red Bean to send a warning flare to the air and inform Naruto in the house to evacuate. Once Naruto evacuates safely, the rebellion of the Uchiha clan will inevitably end in failure. Just as all kinds of thoughts emerged in Red's mind, and when the hand seals were about to be completed, she was shocked to find that Gale and Xian, who were slashing their swords at the sneaking Uchiha, were actually holding their swords high in front of the enemy. How can this be? Red did not expect that the 3 of them did not even form hand seals, and easily used Jinjutsu to subdue Gale and Xian who were on guard. It doesn't matter. My Jinjutsu is completed. Red's face sank, and she shouted, Secret technique, 1000 Phantom Sakura technique. Whoosh! At the moment when Red launched the Jinjutsu, a strong wind blew around, and countless cherry petals fluttered in the wind, sweeping the entire small courtyard, making everyone in the courtyard fall into a sea of petals. At this time, Red calmed down a little and shouted, Red Bean, quickly release the signal flare. However, there was no response from Red Bean behind her, and there was no shrill whistle of the signal flare rising into the sky. Red turned around hurriedly, but there was no sign of Red Bean behind her. She looked around blankly and realized that Gale, Xian, and even the 3 Uchiha who sneaked into the small courtyard had disappeared without a trace. In the entire small courtyard, in the entire sea of flowers, she was the only one left. While retreating in a flash, Red Bean paid close attention to the battlefield, and at the same time, she reached into the ninja bag at her waist and touched the signal flare that was specially provided to the Shadow Guards by the village. As long as this signal flare was fired, the village would immediately enter the highest state of combat readiness, and the surprise attack of the Uchiha clan tonight would be declared a failure. However, the moment she took out the signal flare from the ninja bag, she found that the black eyes of Itachi Uchiha had turned into a horrifying scarlet red, and Gale and Xian were stunned at the same time. No matter how hard they tried, they could not swing their swords down. There was a trace of panic in Red Bean's heart. Suddenly, she heard the low voice of Red activating the illusion technique. But before she could breathe a sigh of relief, she keenly noticed that Red, who had activated the illusion technique, also fell into a sluggish state and froze on the spot. Illusion rebound. Red Bean, who was a disciple of Orochimaru, immediately realized something, and the movements of her hands became more rapid. Taking out the signal flare, unsealing it, and raising it high into the air, the whole process only took Red Bean a few seconds, and she completed it in one go. However, Just as Red Bean was about to fire the signal flare in her hand, a figure flashed in front of her, and at the same time, a gentle voice rang in her ears. Red Bean, Senpai, please don't be nervous. This, so fast it's Jishui. The moment she saw the scarlet eyes of the person, Red Bean did not even have time to identify who it was before she lost control of her body, and only one thought flashed in her mind. Damn it, we can't even send out the signal flare. Kuroda, run. At this time, Uchiha Shinichi's lazy voice resounded in the courtyard. Hey, although it's just for show, aren't they a bit too outrageous? How can I get the allowance of the shadow guards with just this? I can do this job too. Jishui said, don't talk nonsense, let's go in. At this time, Jishui was also a little confused. In the past, when they secretly reported to Hyojin, Hyojin would send away the shadow guards, but she did not know why Hyojin did not send away the shadow guards today. Itachi turned off his Sharingan and silently passed by Gale and Shien, who were standing on the spot with their long swords raised high, as well as Red, who was trapped in his own illusion. Shinichi curled his lips and hurriedly followed after Seiji. Seeing Jishui, Shinichi, and Itachi enter Hyojin's house one by one, Red Bean, who was bound by the illusion, was extremely anxious. Although she knew that Hyojin was the best among their peers, facing the young patriarch of the Uchiha clan and the two kaleidoscope Uchiha, no matter how strong Hyojin was, it would be difficult for him to resist. Moreover, the three of them had launched a surprise attack in the middle of the night, so Red Bean's heart was dead for a moment. Secondly, I'm asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. It's just a small effort. Please support me. Also, thank you to the students who gave me gifts yesterday. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 838. In Hyojin's bedroom. Seeing that Hyojin still didn't care much, you blurted out anxiously, Hyojin, this matter is really serious. Even if you move to the clan's land, no one will look down on you. Obviously, you thought that Hyojin refused to move to the clan's land because he was worried about his face. If it was in the past, she would never say such words to Hyojin. She knows very well that men sometimes value face more than life. Not to mention that Hyojin is now Naruto. Face not only represents himself, but also represents the Hyuga clan and the entire My Village. It's just that after attending the high-level secret meeting of the village today, she realized that the rebellion of the Uchiha clan is imminent, so she spoke without thinking. After speaking, she looked at Hyojin a little timidly, afraid that Hyojin would be angry. Hyojin just smiled gently. Since you are so worried, then I will listen to you. You quickly said, really? She knows that Hyojin looks very easy to talk to on the surface, but in fact, he's the kind of person who will go forward and never flinch once he is determined to do something. So her heart was full of surprise. Hyojin nodded lightly. He thought about it carefully. It seems to be more convenient to move to the clan's land. At this moment, the sound of someone going upstairs came from the corridor, and it sounds like there is more than one person. Listening to the sound of the other party going upstairs without any disguise, you didn't think much, but looked at Hyojin with some doubts. Hyojin, it's so late. Why are there guests at home? Hyojin responded casually. Well, it's a few subordinates who came to report the progress of the work. He had already noticed the brief fight in the yard just now, so before the footsteps came, he knew that Jishui, Shinichi, and Itachi had arrived and quietly solved the shadow guards. Before Hyojin could explain further, Jishui, Shinichi, and Itachi walked into the room. After seeing the identity of the person, Ling was like a tigress protecting her cubs. She immediately took out her kunai and stood in front of Hyojin. She shouted excitedly, Hyojin, run! Uchiha had become Bell's nightmare during this period of time. Not to mention that the one who appeared here in the middle of the night was the young patriarch of the Uchiha clan, as well as the two kaleidoscope Uchiha. From Ling's point of view, this was equivalent to Uchiha officially starting a rebellion. Hyojin smiled and placed his hand on Bell's shoulder. Don't be nervous. I summoned them. At the same time, Jishui, Shinichi, and Itachi half-knelt on the ground and bowed respectfully to Hyojin. Naruto-sama. This Belle froze on the spot, her face filled with disbelief. Patting Belle's shoulder lightly, Hyojin said, "Go down and call Red and the others up. Remember, don't make any noise." But, pointing at the three Uchiha half kneeling on the ground, Belle wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. She was at a loss. The scene in front of her was simply too strange. The young patriarch of the Uchiha clan and the two kaleidoscope Uchiha listened to Hyojin's order and came to report in the middle of the night. It was unbelievable. She even suspected that she had been controlled by Uchiha's illusion. But after checking secretly, she was sure that she was not under the illusion. She also used Byakugan to observe Hyojin and found that Hyojin was not under the illusion either. Kuroto smiled. "Don't just stand there. Hurry up and go." Out of trust in Suijin, you finally suppressed the various suspicions in her heart and came to the small courtyard. While dispelling the Jinjutsu of the four shadow guards, she also brought the shadow guards into the house. Following behind Belle, Red and the others were extra vigilant. They didn't relax their vigilance just because the three Uchiha Shinichi, and Itachi respectfully knelt in front of Suijin, because through the battle just now, they have already realized the power of the Uchiha Jinjutsu. So, just like you, they are also wondering if they are still under the control of a Jinjutsu, and even if Suijin is also under the control of the Jinjutsu. Hyojin just glanced at Belle and the shadow guards and guessed their thoughts. But Hyojin was too lazy to explain anything and directly asked Jishui, "How did Fuyue deploy?" Jishui didn't get up and directly began to explain the deployment of the Uchiha clan's rebellion. Listening to Jishui's narration, whether it was Belle or the four shadow guards, the surprise on their faces became more and more obvious. Slowly, they even unconsciously opened their mouths, because the information provided by Jishui is too detailed. For example, the person in charge of raiding the My Prison was the elite Jonin Uchiha Yusuke. The person in charge of recruiting bounty ninjas and wandering swordsmen was the elite Jonin Uchiha Hikaru. The person in charge of raiding the various facilities of the village was the elite Jonin Uchiha Kiwa, and the raid on the Naruto building was led by Patriarch Uchiha Fuyue. Not only that, but the personnel configuration of each team, the time of action, and even the secret code of the contact, Jishui also explained one by one. Not to mention the four shadow guards who didn't know anything about this. Even Belle, who had participated in the high-level secret meeting of the village during the day, was stunned at this moment, because the information revealed by Jishui is far more comprehensive and detailed than the information that Uchiha Izumi has inquired. When the several people who were in shock were about to crash, Hyojin asked leisurely, "Is that all?" Listening to Hyojin's words, Belle and several members of the shadow guards were speechless. If all these deployments of the Uchiha clan are really realized, then they don't need to think about it to know that it will be a disaster. But listening to Hyojin's tone, it seems that the deployment of the Uchiha clan's rebellion is too simple. Itachi reported at this time, "Naruto-sama, listening to my father's tone, I'm afraid that a third party will intervene on the night of the rebellion, and my father repeatedly emphasized in the meeting that we don't need to worry about the Hyuga clan. So, I suspect that this third party who intervenes is very likely to be related to the Hyuga clan, and they will make a move against the Hyuga clan that night." As soon as she heard Hyuga clan, Belle instinctively became nervous and analyzed the secrets hidden in the intelligence provided by Itachi. The four members of the Shadow Guards looked at each other and saw an indescribable blankness in each other's eyes. Because listening to the scene of Itachi Uchiha, the young patriarch of the Uchiha clan, confessing his father's rebellion plan to Hyojin was too weird and absurd. First, I'm asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 839. Is everything in front of us really reality, or are we trapped in another layer of illusion? This weird and creepy thought suddenly surged in the hearts of the four Shadow Guards, making them repeatedly examine themselves to check whether there is any abnormality in their chakra. The fish has taken a bait. Unlike the others, Hyojin slightly raised the corners of his mouth after listening to the information provided by Itachi. The third force that Itachi mentioned is the fish that Hyojin wants to catch this time, and from the information provided by Itachi, in the face of the chaos caused by the rebellion of the Uchiha clan, the fish really can't help it. At this time, Itachi, who pondered for a moment, asked, Naruto-sama, do we need to put out this rebellion in advance? Jishui also looked at Hyojin, waiting for Hyojin's reply. With the situation developing to this point, Shui and Itachi, who are both Uchiha clansmen, are also unable to calm down. On one side is their beloved village, on the other side is their beloved clan, and on the other side is their beloved Uchiha clan. Sandwiched in the middle, the two of them are really out of breath. In contrast, Shinichi, who has relatively indifferent feelings for the village and clan, is more open-minded. From the perspective of a bystander, Shinichi feels that the rebellion of the clan is extremely ridiculous. Not to mention that the success rate of rebellion is infinitely zero, even if the clan succeeds by luck and seizes the power of the village. After the war, their strength will be greatly damaged, and the village will be destroyed. What can they use to resist the Akatsuki organization? Seeing Itachi and Jishui staring at him eagerly, Hyojin shook his head. No, I need this rebellion. Not only Jishui and Itachi, but even you and the 4 shadow guards on the side were taken aback and looked at Hyojin in confusion. Hyojin said, there is indeed a third-party force hidden in the dark, and I can confirm that their target is the Hyuga clan and the village. Itachi was the first to react. You want to use the rebellion of the Uchiha clan to lure them out. Hyojin gently nodded. That's right. The other party is very cautious. That's why I need a rebellion. A rebellion that can make them feel at ease. Jishui hesitated and said, but, raising his hand to interrupt Jishui, Hyojin continued in a flat tone. This time, the rebellion that your Uchiha clan wants to launch is not driven by one person, nor is it driven by a group of people. It is the anger and hostility of your entire clan. It was your entire Uchiha clan that wanted to start this rebellion. Listening to Hyojin's calm words, Jishui and Itachi's faces were pale and dejected. This was because they knew that Hyojin was telling the truth. In the current family, except for a few moderates, everyone else had become radicals. This is a rebellion with a high degree of unity from top to bottom, not the result of 1 or 2 careerists instigated by 1 or 2 ambitious people. Watching Hyojin talking to the top powerhouses of the Uchiha clan, you was suddenly fascinated. She tilted her head and thought, this is Naruto. It turns out that everything is under the control of Kuroto. The 4 members of the Shadow Guards looked at each other at this moment. Looking at the current situation, the young patriarch of the Uchiha clan and the 2-man GQ Sharingan in the clan seem to have secretly joined Hyojin and become Hyojin's eyes. But aren't they the highest level of the Uchiha clan? The contradiction between reality and cognition in front of them caused the 4 people's minds to fall into chaos. At this time, Itachi seemed to have made up his mind. He knelt down on his knees and kowtowed in front of Hyojin and pleaded, Naruto-sama, I am willing to be the blade in your hand. Please let Sasuke go. Shinichi also couldn't help but ask, Boss, are you really going to kill them all? Hyojin froze for a moment and asked in confusion, who told you that I'm going to kill them all? Jishui, Shinichi, and Itachi suddenly looked at Hyojin. What are you thinking in your heads? This time, it was Hyojin who was a little speechless. He really didn't understand why the Uchiha always liked to think of things in extreme ways. Seeing that things seemed to have turned around, Itachi said happily, Naruto-sama, how are you going to deal with this rebellion? The anger and hostility of the Uchiha clan must be vented, otherwise, it will always be a time bomb. After a pause, Hyojin continued, and what I want to do is to give your Uchiha clan a failure that will be unforgettable to your entire clan. Hyojin's theory is not something he made up casually. History has proved many times that the best way to make the Uchiha clan obedient is not to reason with them or talk about feelings, but to beat them up. In the past, the Uchiha clan was beaten by the Senju clan. So when Uchiha Madara proposed to separate the clan from Mai, no one in the clan supported Uchiha Madara. The patriarch would open the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, so Uchimadara had to leave alone. In the original time and space, the way Naruto finally made Sasuke obedient was also by beating Sasuke. It could be said that Sasuke vividly displayed the characteristics of the Uchiha clan. The reason why Hyojin can make Jishuei and Itachi worship him is also because of his strong strength. As for Shinichi, he became obedient after being beaten by Hyojin. Perhaps this is the fetter of the Uchiha clan. I will inform you later on how to do it. Waving his hand, Hyojin said to Jishuei and the others, "Well, it's getting late. You could go back first." Yes. After getting a satisfactory answer from Hyojin, Jishuei, Shinichi, and Itachi responded in unison. Until the figures of Jishuei, Shinichi, and Itachi disappeared into the shadows outside the courtyard. The 4 shadow guards in the room still did not react. Red scratched her head and said, "Naruto-sama, just now, this is the top secret of the village. Don't leak it." As Hyojin said, he smiled strangely. Now that he has become Naruto, he can already define what the top secret of the village is. Listening to Hyojin's order, Red and the others nodded subconsciously and then said, "But just now," Hyojin looked at Red and said, "What are you trying to say? Didn't you see it just now?" The 3 of them don't want to see a war break out in the village, so they chose the village's side. Red said with a conflicted face, "I understand the reason, but Itachi Uchiha is the young clan leader of the Uchiha clan, and Uchiha Jishuei and Uchiha Shinichi are the kaleidoscopes of the Uchiha clan. Why would they betray themselves?" Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Also, thank you to the students who tipped yesterday. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 840. Looking at the faces of the 4 shadow guards that were filled with surprise, doubt, and even confusion, Hyojin curled his lips and said, "What's so strange about this? It's because they are Uchiha." Because they are Uchiha? Red was stunned for a moment. She didn't know why, but she found that she couldn't find any reason to refute. It was as if the 3 words Uchiha were enough to explain everything. Because when she thought about it carefully, she found that no matter what outrageous things the Uchiha clan did, she wouldn't be too surprised. Glancing at the 4 shadow guards again, Hyojin said in a stern tone, "Tonight's matter is of great importance. Without my permission, you are not allowed to leak it to anyone, not even the advisory elder group or your family members. Do you understand?" Bell's sudden arrival tonight was indeed out of Hyojin's expectations. Jishuei and the others who came to report bumped into the shadow guards who were protecting Bell. Fortunately, Hyojin was now Naruto, so it was easy for him to give a gag order to his shadow guards. Yes, the 4 shadow guards hurriedly knelt on one knee and responded in unison. Although they respected Hyojin in the past, in their hearts, Hyojin, the 5th generation Naruto, was just a small boat on the cusp of the storm. In the face of the approaching storm of Uchiha clan, not only was he badly battered, but he was also powerless to deal with it. But after experiencing the scene just now, they understood that everything was under Hyojin's control. The rebellion that seemed like a disaster to them was just a small mess that Hyojin, the Naruto, could quell with a flip of his hand. Hyojin even used this rebellion of Uchiha to lay out a bigger plan. This made the 4 members of the Shadow Guard sincerely convinced of Kuroto. The direct outward manifestation was that they were even more respectful towards Hyojin in their speech and actions. They regarded Hyojin as the true helmsman of the 3 generations, Naruto. After that, Hyojin ordered, "You're dismissed." Soon, the 4 members of the Shadow Guard quietly left the room one by one and returned to their duty in the courtyard. After the Shadow Guard left the room, Bell asked in confusion, "Jean, why did you hide this from the village?" "You don't know. Sandaime and the others have been worrying about the Uchiha rebellion every day." Worried? With a light snort, Hyojin muttered, "Isn't this the mess they created? Everything needs to be done in moderation. Naruto is already the turn of the 5th generation. It's good to let Uchiha have fun and be a tool for Naruto. They deserve to worry every day for doing things so ruthlessly." With the pressure gone, Bell, who was much more relaxed, stared at Hyojin with admiration. I don't think the village did anything wrong. You are the most suitable candidate for the 5th generation. As Hyojin took off the Naruto robe, he chuckled and said, "This Naruto was given to me by the village because they had no other choice. It was used to prevent Uchiha from ascending the throne. Their real choice was Kakashi." Bell pouted and said, "But Kakashi lost." "Yes, it is because Kakashi lost that things became like this. Do you think that Konoha deliberately humiliated the Uchiha and forced them to rebel?" "That's right." After a pause, Hyojin said, "Kakashi lost a battle that he couldn't lose, and the village refused to admit defeat. In the end, they could only let me, the new Naruto, take the blame. It's reasonable for me to collect some labor fees, right?" Bell was confused. "Labor fees?" Hyojin sat down and said seriously, "Yes, I'm going to outsource the work of suppressing the rebellion." The more Bell listened, the more confused she became. She asked hurriedly, "Outsource? But you're Naruto. How can you outsource the work of suppressing the rebellion?" "This is too Naruto." Hyojin snorted again. Now the power of the village was still in the hands of the advisory elder group. Hyojin didn't really care about that, but the financial power was also in the hands of the advisory elder group, which made him a little unhappy. Yes, he was very unhappy, but it couldn't be helped. Not to mention him, the 5th generation Naruto, even Tsunade, the 5th generation Naruto, who had a stronger background in the original time and space, was also restrained when facing the advisory elder group, who was weaker. And in the advisory elder group that Hyojin faced, there were not only the 3 generations, but also the 2 Sannin, Tsunade and Jiraiya. Whether it was the overall prestige or the overall strength, they were much stronger than the advisory elder group that Tsunade faced in the original time and space. As if thinking of something, Bell said, "But didn't Itachi, Jishuei, and Shinichi stand on our side just now? With them, it should be easy to suppress the rebellion." Hyojin quickly said, "That's why we have to hide this matter from the village. If it's too easy, it's not easy to negotiate the price." Bell looked around with a guilty conscience, then lowered her voice and asked, "Kuroto, is it not good for us to deceive the village like this?" Hyojin said seriously, "The trouble was caused by the village, and I, the scapegoat of the Naruto, solved this storm with the minimum casualties, the minimum price, and the minimum impact. So what's the big deal about the labor fees? You calculate it yourself. If the rebellion launched by the Uchiha clan really affects the whole village, how many casualties would the village suffer? I'm afraid the compensation for the casualties will be an astronomical figure." Bell nodded. "Well, what you said makes sense. As a senior member of my hospital, Bell is very clear about the compensation for the casualties of the village. It can be said that in the area of compensation, the Richmai village is the best among the 5 great ninja villages. Therefore, if the rebellion of the Uchiha clan really affects the whole village, then even if the village can successfully suppress the rebellion in the end, I'm afraid that they will have to pay a lot of money." The next day, in Naruto's office, Kakashi asked in surprise, "What, Amatsukumi's Homusubi found you privately? What did he say to you?" Not only Kakashi, after listening to Hyojin's story, 3 generations, Zhuan Xiaochun, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and others in the office also looked at Hyojin. But was also surprised. Although she knew that Hyojin wanted to outsource the rebellion, she didn't expect that Hyojin would outsource the work to the famous Amatsukumi. She didn't even dare to determine whether Hyojin really contacted Amatsukumi or not. Hyojin's expression was gloomy, and he said with some difficulty, "Those guys want to interfere in the affairs of our village." 3 generations took a deep breath of their pipe and asked calmly, "What do they want?" Hyojin said, "They seem to know the intention of the Uchiha clan to rebel, and they are willing to accept employment to help us suppress the rebellion of the Uchiha clan." 3 generations asked, "How did you answer?" "Humph, how can I agree to such an unreasonable request?" After snorting angrily, Hyojin looked at the expressions of the people in the office. "What's more, the price they proposed is too outrageous, asking for 200 million. Isn't this a joke? I'm asking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. Chapter 841. As soon as Kuroda finished speaking, he quietly observed the people in the office, silently evaluating their reaction to the offer of 200 million ryo in his heart. 200 million? The three generations furrowed their brows, but soon relaxed. Zhuan Xiaochun, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and the others were also deep in thought. Their expressions were more surprised than anything else. But Hyojin wasn't sure whether they were surprised by Amit Tsukumi's interference in the village's affairs or the offer of 200 million. Kakashi, with one hand supporting his chin, thought for a moment and said, "I think we can consider it." Jiraiya nodded and echoed, "Yes, with Amit Tsukumi's help, we can minimize our losses. Although the commission of 200 million is a little high, it's not unacceptable." Zhuan Xiaochun said, "If the battle can be limited to the Uchiha clan's territory and not let the battle spread to other areas of the village, I also agree to cooperate with Amit Tsukumi." Listening to the discussion of the elders, Hyojin was secretly delighted, but on the surface he looked surprised. "What do you mean? Are we going to agree with Amit Tsukumi?" The several consulting elders looked at each other and then turned their heads to the side, avoiding Kuroda's inquisitive gaze. My village itself was a ninja organization that accepted all kinds of employment. So, if my village hired other organizations, it would be a sign of weakness. As the elders of the village, they were naturally embarrassed to admit such a thing. Kakashi rubbed his nose awkwardly and explained, "Kuroda, there are some things you may not understand, but the village has actually cooperated with Amit Tsukumi before, so it was the first time she saw the elders admit that the village's combat power was insufficient. You, who was eager to cooperate with Amit Tsukumi, felt her world view turn upside down. She murmured, "But isn't Armai the leader of the 5 great ninja villages? Isn't it the winner of the 3 shinobi wars? Why do we need to hire other shinobi?" As you, Sensei, Tsunade no longer hid anything and directly told you. After the rise of Akatsuki and Amit Tsukumi, the 5 great ninja villages have actually lost control of the shinobi world. Don't talk about this in the village, but you must know this in your heart. The fact that the 5 great ninja villages can no longer compete with Akatsuki and Amit Tsukumi is well known to the highest level, but only the middle and lower level ninjas, as well as the ordinary people, don't have a clear understanding of this. Because you is a medical ninja, Tsunade didn't tell her too much about these cruel facts before, but now that you is not only her disciple, but she is also the fiancée of Naruto Feudame, she doesn't need to hide these things anymore. Kakashi stepped forward and persuaded Hyojin. "Kuroda, I know that you are very unwilling, but the current situation in the shinobi world is no longer the same as the 3rd shinobi war. We must cooperate with Amit Tsukumi, and we must pay this sum of money." At this time, 3 generations knocked his pipe on the coffee table and said in a deep voice, "We are not the only party that Amit Tsukumi can cooperate with. If we refuse them, it is very likely that they will be pushed to the side of Uchiha, and things will become troublesome at that time. Therefore, what Kakashi said is right. Kuroda, we must pay this sum of money." Tsunade also persuaded Hyojin. The 2 Homusubi of Amit Tsukumi are originally from Uchiha clan, and if we refuse them, it is very likely that they will lean towards Uchiha clan, and things will become troublesome at that time. Therefore, Kakashi is right. Kuroda, we must pay this sum of money. Jiraiya patted Hyojin's shoulder and said, "Kuroda, now is not the time to throw a tantrum." Looking at the crowd surrounding him and persuading him, Hyojin opened his mouth but didn't know what to say for a while, so he just nodded and said, Okay then." He thought that it would take a lot of persuasion to get this 200 million yen business done. But he didn't expect that the advisory elder group would be worried that Amit Tsukumi would lean towards the Uchiha clan. So not only did they agree, but they also tried to persuade him instead, which really made him a little dumbfounded. "Hey, if this business is settled, then the funds for repairing the Sky Fortress will be settled." The reason why Hyojin hasn't repaired the damage to the Sky Fortress is because the funds needed to repair it are too huge, and the funds he has at hand are invested in the research and development of the bioarmor, which is why it has been delayed until now. The environment of the Sky Fortress is the extremely humid sea clouds. Without the protection of the outer enchantment, the water vapor in the sea clouds will seriously corrode the overall structure of the Sky Fortress. If it continues to be delayed like this, then sooner or later there will be a big problem. At this time, the three generations said in a deep voice, "But we can't give away the 3 pairs of Manjiku Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. We must make this clear to Amatsutsukami." The rest of the advisory elder group nodded one after another. With the current medical ninjutsu, it is not difficult to transplant Sharingan, so the 3 pairs of Manjiku Sharingan of the Uchiha clan is a very important strategic resource. Tsunade said with some worry, "Sensei, you said that Amatsutsukami is helping us to quell the rebellion. Is it possible that they are thinking about the Manjiku Sharingan?" 3 generations nodded and said, "I can't rule out this possibility." Kakashi, who has a deep understanding of the power of the Manjiku Sharingan, immediately said to Hyojin, "Kuroto, if Amatsutsukami sends someone to contact you again, you'd better inform us immediately." Hyojin nodded and said, "Okay." Except for the pair of Manjiku Sharingan in Fuyuezai sockets, which Hyojin is considering whether to take advantage of this opportunity to directly snatch it. The Manjiku Sharingan of the other people is obviously not within the scope of consideration. But the village doesn't know about Hyojin's arrangement, so Hyojin can use this point to negotiate a price with the village. He believes that the village is very willing to pay for the safety of the 2 pairs of Manjiku Sharingan in Jishuei and Shinichizai sockets. This time, I must make as much money as possible. The cloning of the Yang release clone is not as easy as the cloning of the 5-element clones. I need to accumulate more savings. Hyojin secretly made up his mind. With the experience of developing the bioarmor, he is very clear that if the fusion target of the Yang release clone is the Hashirama cells, then the difficulty of cloning the Yang release clone will be very high. Because the Hashirama cells are the most aggressive cell tissue he has ever seen, when developing the bioarmor, he had to use a lot of sealing techniques to keep the bioarmor in a relatively stable state. Obviously, the Hashirama cells can't use sealing techniques to clone the Yang release clone, so how to solve the invasive nature of the Hashirama cells is a very complicated problem. Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Also, thank you to the students who tipped yesterday. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 842. The next day, Hyojin, who had made up his mind, put forward a new offer to the village on the pretext of Amatsutsukami's private contact. The previous 200 million Ryo commission remains the same, but if Mai wants to ensure the 3 pairs of Manjiku Sharingan of the Uchiha clan, he will have to pay an additional commission. Regarding this proposal of Amatsutsukami, the advisory elder group has no objection. The value of the Manjiku Sharingan has long been known in the shinobi world. If spending some money can ensure that the 3 pairs of Manjiku Sharingan of the Uchiha clan will not leak out, then for the village, it will definitely be a profitable deal. The only dissatisfaction of the advisory elder group is that Hyojin didn't inform them in time to let them directly participate in the negotiations with Amatsutsukami. In this regard, Hyojin's explanation is that the members of Amatsutsukami come and go without a trace, and he can't do anything about it. In the blink of an eye, the day of the 4 Kages leaving Mai and returning to their respective shinobi villages has finally arrived. Early in the morning, the 4 Kages and their entourage left Mai through a secret passage and came to a remote grove outside the village. On Mai's side, 5th generation Naruto, Hyojin, and all the members of the advisory elder group participated in this farewell. In the grove, the 3 generations took the opportunity of saying goodbye to the 4 Kages one by one to discuss something. Hyojin, who was wearing Naruto's robe, stood on the side and activated his Byakugan, looking around casually. Soon, he seemed to have found something, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly, and then he quietly closed his Byakugan. During his observation just now, he found a ninja cat in the distance. The ninja cat is very cunning, and its chakra is almost restrained to the extreme. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary wild cat. If Hyojin hadn't been prepared, he would have most likely been deceived by it. There is no doubt that this cunning ninja cat should be a spy sent by the Uchiha clan to monitor the whereabouts of the four Kages. To the Uchiha clan, the existence of the four shadows was a huge obstacle to their rebellion. Because the four Kage not only have extremely strong combat power, but they are also accompanied by the elite jonin of their respective villages, many of which are Kage-level experts. With such a force that could not be ignored in the village, the Uchiha clan naturally would not act rashly. However, the Uchiha clan was very clear that the four Kage wouldn't stay in the village for long. After all, the purpose of this assembly of the five Kage was to discuss how to deal with Danzo, who had carried out the bloodline fusion ritual without permission. However, the target Danzo had already vanished without a trace for several months, and not even a trace of him could be found. Naturally, the assembly of the five Kage naturally couldn't continue. Not long after, the four shadows finished bidding their farewells and led their entourages away in a hurry. At this time, Kakashi walked to Hyojin's side and said in a low voice, "The plan is going smoothly. The Uchiha clan has already noticed that the four shadows have led their people out of the village." Hyojin nodded. The departure of the four shadows this time was a trap laid by the village from the beginning to the end. Long before the vote of confidence, the three generations had used the vote of confidence to delay time and privately negotiated with the four shadows one by one. After paying a certain price, they obtained the support of the four shadows. For the four shadows, under the huge threat of the Akatsuki organization, they don't want Mai to be destroyed due to internal strife. Therefore, the two sides hit it off and came up with the plan of luring the snake out of its hole. The four shadows pretended to leave, luring the Uchiha clan to rebel, and then the village cooperated with the return of the four shadows to suppress the Uchiha clan justifiably, reducing casualties to a minimum. It is also because of the agreement with the four shadows that the village has the confidence to suppress the Uchiha clan in the vote of confidence. Seeing that Hyojin still seems to have doubts, Kakashi thought that he is still worried about the Uchiha clan's rebellion. So he comforted him. "Don't worry. This time the village has the support of the Four Shadows and Amatsuki organization, so we will be able to successfully quell the rebellion. And with Jishue's wisdom, after the general situation is settled, he will not resist stubbornly. So there is still a chance for the Uchiha clan to turn around." Hyojin turned his head and asked, "Did you bring the message I told you?" "I have told the four generations Lei to be careful on the road." After a pause, Kakashi continued, "They won't go too far. They will come back in the afternoon, and the route is also confidential, so there shouldn't be any problem." "I hope so," Hyojin said softly. In the matter of the Uchiha clan's rebellion, it can be said that in addition to the Uchiha clan itself, other forces are taking this opportunity to set up a trap. Tonight's drama is undoubtedly a game within a game, and it is still difficult to say who will laugh in the end. But Hyojin has always been cautious, and it has become his habit to think about the worst-case scenario in advance. So after pondering for a while, he directly used the identity of Naruto to order Kakashi. In the evening, after the shinobi school is over, you secretly send Naruto and Fu to Mount Mayaboku to hide. Listening to Hyojin's arrangement of the 9 Tails' Jinchuriki and the 7 Tails' Jinchuriki, Kakashi immediately said, "You are worried that the Akatsuki organization will also intervene in the Uchiha clan's rebellion tonight. But with Amatsuki's participation, there shouldn't be any problem, right?" The village did arrange for the 2 Jinchuriki to take refuge, but they only arranged for them to stay in the underground shelter, and they didn't think of sending them to Mount Mayaboku. Hyojin said in a deep voice, "Amatsuki is not omnipotent. Kuroto, Amatsuki is actually much stronger than what was described in the report, especially their leader Yama, who can completely suppress the leader of the Akatsuki organization, Nagato." After a pause, Kakashi said, "But your worry is also reasonable. I will go and discuss it with Jiraiya-sama." After Kakashi left, Hyojin's eyes gradually darkened. For him, the current variables are the Akatsuki organization, Otsutsuki Samurai, and Orochimaru. And among these three parties, the probability of Akatsuki organization's intervention is the highest, so just in case, he must strengthen the protection of all the Jinchuriki. Therefore, Hyojin secretly informed the Three Tails Jinchuriki, Yagura, and Yagura to prepare for a surprise attack from Akatsuki organization, while the Six Tails Jinchuriki is currently hiding in the Land of Water, and even Yagura and Hyojin don't know his whereabouts. As for the Seven Tails Jinchuriki and the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, both Naruto and Hyojin have also made arrangements. The only one that Hyojin can arrange is the Cloud Village's Jinchuriki, Chalabi, so he just asked Kakashi to pass a message to the four generations Lei, Ing, and Chalabi, telling them to be careful on the road. As for how much Lei, Ing, and Chalabi listened, Hyojin doesn't know, and he doesn't know if his worry is unnecessary or not. I'm asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 843. In the evening, there was only a faint yellow glow of the setting sun on the horizon. As the sky got darker and darker, the students who had finished their training for the day packed up their ninja tools and left the school in groups of 2s and 3s. Unlike other students, Sasuke was not in a hurry to leave. The recent strange atmosphere in the clan's land made him not want to go back too early, and the fact that his father in Naruto's position had missed made him even more eager to improve his strength and regain the glory of the Uchiha clan in the future Naruto's position. At this moment, Jiraiya appeared in front of Sasuke with Naruto and Fu. Sasuke quickly stepped forward and respectfully saluted. "Jiraiya, Sensei." Jiraiya rubbed Sasuke's head and said with a smile, "Come with me." Sasuke glanced at Naruto and Fu and asked curiously, "Where are we going?" "Mount Myaboku." With that, Jiraiya led the three children out of the ninja school. Protecting Sasuke is the condition that Uchiha Izumi agreed to act as a double agent for the village. Because she knows that Sasuke is Itachi's beloved brother, Jiraiya temporarily decided to send Sasuke, Naruto, and Fu to Mount Myaboku together, so that Sasuke, the current contractor of Mount Myaboku, can stay away from the rebellion of the Uchiha clan and the affairs of the village. Inside the Uchiha clan's land, compared to usual, the streets of the clan's land are particularly deserted, and the shops on both sides of the street have closed early, leaving only a few scattered Uchiha clansmen walking on the street. In the clan leader's mansion, there were fully armed clansmen of the Uchiha clan. There were so many of them that it was as if all the Uchiha who had opened their eyes had gathered here. The jonins of the Uchiha clan were all crowded in the main hall of the mansion, eagerly waiting for the Uchiha Fuyue to issue the order to change the fate of the Uchiha clan. Swish with the sound of wind breaking, an Uchiha clansman appeared outside the hall in a flash and reported, "Chief, it has been confirmed that the Four Shadows and their entourage have left the village early in the morning. However, the people we sent to follow them have been shaken off one by one." In the hall, after hearing the news that the four Kage and their entourage had all left the village, Uchiha's jonins immediately rubbed their hands. For him, the last obstacle no longer exists. Sitting in the main seat, Fuyue's face sank. He frowned. Losing the trace of the Four Shadows made him a little uneasy. Uchiha analyzed. Now that the Akatsuki organization is so rampant, the Four Shadows will be extra careful when they return to the village. It is normal that the people we sent were shaken off by them. In the end, Fugaka nodded and agreed with Uchiha Kuroto's judgment. "Chief, give the order." "Yes, Chief, please give the order. It's time for us to fight back. It's time to settle the previous accounts with those bastards." The Uchiha's jonins in the hall were clamoring. The anger in their hearts had been suppressed for too long. At this time, it is like a volcano that is about to erupt, unstoppable. Looking at the crowd of excited clansmen, Fuyue stood up and said loudly, "Mai was created by our noble Uchiha. It belongs to our Uchiha clan." "Yes, what Chief said is right. Mai belongs to us." The Uchiha's jonins shouted and echoed. Fuyue's sharp eyes swept through the clansmen. But for the past few decades, we have been treated unfairly. Our clan's land has been moved to the corner of the village again and again, and the village is weak. Rotten elders still do not give up, still trying to exclude us. This time in the Naruto election, they used despicable tricks to humiliate us. Listening to Fuyue's words, the Uchiha's Jonin's face all turned red. A boundless hostility gathered in their hearts. It's time to change all this. Tonight, I will launch a revolution, take back the power and glory that belongs to our noble Uchiha clan, and send all those rotten guys who ride on our heads to the grave. As Fuyue said, he opened the Manjikyu Sharingan in his eye sockets and shouted, "Are you willing to follow me?" The Uchiha's Jonin in the hall knelt on one knee and replied in unison, "Chief, we are willing to follow you to take back the power and glory that belongs to our Uchiha clan." Nodding with satisfaction, Fuyue began to give orders. "Yusuke, you set off immediately, attack the prison at the appointed time, and release the prisoners inside." "Yes." Yusuke Uchiha bowed and accepted the order. Fuyue then ordered, "Hikaru, you are responsible for bringing the bounty ninjas and wandering swordsmen that you have secretly recruited into the village, and then attack the intelligence team, the enchantment team, the My Hospital, and the Nara, Yamanaka, and Akimichi clans to buy time for me to deal with the Elder Council." "Yes." Uchiha Hikaru bowed and accepted the order. Fuyue turned his head and looked to the other side. "Kiwa, you lead half of the Jonin's Jonin to raid the Umbu base. Block the Umbu's path there. Don't let them support the Naruto building." "Yes." Uchiha Hikaru bowed and accepted the order. Finally, Fuyue looked at his son Itachi and said, "Itachi, I will leave the fifth Sama to you. Remember, don't let me down. Don't let the clan down." "Yes, father." Itachi nodded his head without changing his expression. Fugaku waved his hand again. "All of you, lead your subordinates and prepare." The clansmen bowed and left the hall one by one. In the blink of an eye, only Fuyue, Jishui, and Shinichi were left in the hall. For Shinichi, Fuyue is at ease. So he locked his eyes on Jishui and said in a deep voice, "Jishui, this time we have no choice. You should know what to choose." Jishui nodded lightly. From Jishui's eyes, Fuyue saw the kind of determination that he had never seen before. So he said with satisfaction, "Very good. You also go and prepare." With the departure of all the clansmen, the hall returned to silence. Sitting quietly in the hall, Fuyue sorted out the deployment of this rebellion in his heart. Compared with the previous rebellions, Kuroto spent more time and effort in planning this rebellion, and the hearts of the people of the Konoha clan are also burning with passion. Coupled with the return of Shinichi, the number of Manjikyu Sharingan in the Konoha clan has increased to 3 pairs, surpassing the number of previous generations. Therefore, Kuroto is confident that he can take down the advisory elder group in one fell swoop and seize the position of Hokage. At this time, from the corner of his eyes, he found that the setting sun shining through the window was fading away on the wooden floor, and the sky outside was getting darker. "It's night. The era that belongs to us, Uchiha, has come." At this moment, Uchiha Fuyue was complacent. At the same time, Jishui and Shinichi, who had returned to their respective homes, also looked at the gradually darkening night outside the window, coldly put on a black gold-edged cloak, and put on a flame pattern mask. Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. In addition, thank you to the students who gave gifts yesterday. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 844. On the roof of the Naruto building, 3 generations silently looked at the village in front of them with their hands behind their back. At this time, the setting sun had completely set in the west. The village that was shrouded in the curtain of night was lit up with dazzling lights. These colorful lights illuminated the village, making it seem like a scene of prosperity. Everything was so normal, as if it was just an ordinary night. Sigh. After a soft sigh, 3 generations moved their eyes to the distant corner of the village. It was the Uchiha clan's land. Looking at it from afar, there was also a bright light there. Just from the surface, there was nothing unusual. But for 3 generations who had experienced 3 shinobi wars, they could vaguely feel that the Uchiha clan's land was not in harmony with the other areas of the village. Swish, at this time, with a sound of breaking wind, an Umbu ninja fell to the side of 3 generations and reported, 3 generations, Sama, Tsuchikage and Kazekage have arrived at the assembly point, but Lei Ing and Mizukage did not arrive at the assembly point, according to the agreement. 3 generations' face sank. What? According to the agreement, the 4 Kages should have started to turn back to Mai at noon, and they should have arrived at the secret assembly point about 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. But now it was already night, and Lei Ing and Mizukage did not arrive on time. Obviously, something happened. Umbu said, "We have sent people to search, but the route of the 4 Kage is all made by them, so we don't know, so we haven't found any trace of Reikage and Mizukage yet. Is it the Akatsuki?" The Sandame's heart trembled as he had a bad guess. Because among the 4 Kages, only Lei Ing and Mizukage had Jinchuriki, and it happened that Tsuchikage and Kazekage were fine, but Lei Ing and Mizukage had lost contact, which made 3 generations think of the Akatsuki organization that was collecting tailed beasts. However, the movements of the 4 shadows were extremely secretive. Even Mai's side did not know, so the 3 generations were unable to come to a conclusion. After pondering for a moment, the 3 generations asked the Umbu beside him, "What about the 5th generation?" The Umbu quickly replied, "Naruto-sama seems to be in the land of the Hyuga clan." 3 generations raised an eyebrow. Seems like the Umbu had to bite the bullet and report, "Naruto-sama doesn't allow us to follow him, so we can only roughly judge that he is in the Hyuga clan. As for the specific location, we don't know." Nonsense. After a pause, 3 generations asked again, "What about his shadow guards?" The Umbu replied, "The shadow guards of Naruto-sama are currently in my hospital protecting Kuroto-sama." The 3 generations said helplessly, "Contact the 5th generation as soon as possible. He's now Naruto. We can't let anything happen to him." Yes. The Umbu disappeared from the roof of the Naruto building. At this time, 3 generations looked at the night that enveloped the entire village, and suddenly had a feeling in his heart that tonight's action may not be completely according to the script he designed. In a remote mountain in the southeast of the Land of Fire, on the cliff, Pipa Juzong was leaning on his beheading blade with both hands. Dried Persimmon Ghost Mermaid was carrying the double-bladed flounder on his shoulder. Swanee had one hand on his waist, and his red eyes were shining with a strange light. Lotus was squatting on the ground with a mocking look on her face. The 4 members of the Mist Squad lined up on the cliff, blocking the path of 4 generations, Mizukage, Goji, and Yagura. Goji and Yagura's face was cold, and they didn't seem surprised by the appearance of the Mist Squad. As the Yonde, Mizukage, Goji, Yagura guards, Mei and Aojirai's faces were filled with anger, because these guys in front of them wearing Akatsuki Red Cloud uniforms are all ninjas of the original Mist. In the air, Sasori was sitting cross-legged on the back of the psychic beast left by Hiriko, looking at the confrontation between the Mist Village and the Mist Village in the valley below. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he chuckled, letting the Mist Squad deal with the Mizukage. The organization's arrangement is really malicious, but it's also right. Internal strife and betrayal are the Mist Village's best. In a dense forest in the northeast of the Land of Fire, Obsidian, with his hands crossed in front of his chest, leaned on the branch of a big tree, looking at 4 generations Lei Ing and his party in front of him, and finally his eyes fell on the Hachibi's Jinchuriki next to Lei Ing. "If you keep hiding in Mai, we really can't do anything to you." Obsidian shrugged and chuckled. Whoosh, 4 generations Lei Ing didn't say a word of nonsense, and instantly activated chakra and entered the thunder release chakra mode, and then his figure flashed, and with a whistling sound, he pounced on Obsidian on the tree. Boom! In less than a breath, the tree Obsidian was leaning on was blown away by 4 generations Lei Ing in the thunder release chakra mode. Obsidian, who was in the void state, chuckled and said, As expected of the 4 generations Laying who can compete with 4 generations Naruto in speed, but unfortunately, no matter how fast you are, it's useless against me. In a misty forest in the land of water, walking in a mist, Yugao, the 6-tailed Jinchuriki, was walking into the depths of the forest. His whereabouts were the Mist Village's top secret, which was personally decided by 4 generations Mizukage Goji Yagura. In the village, even Goji Yagura himself didn't know where he was hiding, and they could only communicate with each other through secret birds. And this time, he received a secret message from the village, asking him to meet in this forest. After arriving at the agreed place, Yugao found that the people waiting for him in the mist were not the ninjas of the village, but 2 members of the Akatsuki wearing the Akatsuki Red Cloud uniform. Another traitor, Yugao muttered to himself. His expression did not contain the slightest bit of shock or anger from being betrayed by a traitor, as if he was already used to it. It could be said that everyone in the Mist Village knew that the Mist Village had been infiltrated into a sieve, and although Goji Yagura had been trying to eliminate the traitor recently, there was still a large number of Obsidian's pawns in the village. At this time, the 2 Akatsuki members also came over. One of them was Kakazu, who was in charge of the Akatsuki's finances, and the other was a tall young man, carrying a strange 3-edged scythe. The tall young man said in a dissatisfied tone, Hey, is this the guy who made us wait for so long?" Kakazu coldly said, "Fei Dan, don't be careless. The opponent is a Jinchuriki." The tall young man named Fei Dan grinned and said, "I haven't tasted the blood of a Jinchuriki, but today I must taste it." Looking at the 2 Akatsuki members in front of him, Yugao secretly thought, with the traitor, they should have made their move a long time ago. Why did they wait until tonight? Is it because they are afraid of alerting 4 generations? If they make their move tonight, doesn't that mean that 4 generations will also be in danger? I'm asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 845. In Mount Mayaboku, Jiraiya led Naruto, Sasuke, and Fu through the colorful forest. The air here was full of natural energy. Every blade of grass and every leaf was huge. Beetles and caterpillars as tall as half a man could be seen everywhere. Unlike Sasuke, this was the first time Naruto and Fu had come to Mount Mayaboku. Everything here was new to them, so they couldn't stop chattering. Sasuke quickly caught up with Jiraiya and asked, "Mr. Jiraiya, why did you bring me here all of a sudden? I haven't told my brother yet. If I go back too late, I'm afraid my family will be worried." Jiraiya turned his head and smiled at Sasuke. "Don't worry, I've already informed your family. Besides, I brought you to Mount Mayaboku this time to let you try practicing immortal techniques again." "Really? That's great." Hearing that he could try practicing immortal techniques again, Sasuke beamed with joy. After signing the contract with Mount Mayaboku, he had a more direct and systematic understanding of the power of immortal techniques. Jiraiya didn't say anything more. Turning his head, the smile on his face gradually faded, replaced by a helpless and melancholy expression. In order to resolve the conflict between the village and the Uchiha clan, he had even made the decision to accept Sasuke and Uchiha as disciples. However, he didn't expect that the election of the 5th generation, Naruto, would cause the relationship between the village and the Uchiha clan to take a turn for the worse. The enmity that had been accumulating for decades erupted in an instant. Sigh. Thinking of this, Jiraiya sighed faintly. This sigh was not only for Sasuke, but also for himself. After settling down a few children, he would immediately return to the village and participate in the battle to exterminate the Uchiha clan's rebellion. When he thought that no matter how hard he tried to hide it, as his disciple, Sasuke, would definitely know the truth about the Uchiha clan's rebellion in the future, and that it was his teacher who extinguished the Uchiha clan's rebellion, he felt very uneasy, because this made him think of another disciple who had faced him with a sword and fought to the death with him, Nagato. "I couldn't save Shueimin and Kushina in time. We also couldn't get Orochimaru back. The disciple that I taught with all my heart became the leader of the Akatsuki organization that threatens the peace of the shinobi world. I can't even save Sasuke's family. Now that I think about it, my life is really full of failures, Jiraiya sighed to himself. However, just as Jiraiya was distracted, a group of white spores swelled up on Sasuke's body and instantly grew bigger, wrapping around Sasuke. What? What is this? Sasuke was shocked because these white spores not only wrapped around his body, making him unable to move, but also crazily absorbed his chakra. Naruto also exclaimed, "Sasuke, what's wrong with you?" As he said that, Naruto stepped forward to help Sasuke break away from the white spores. The sudden change woke Jiraiya up from his daze. He flashed in front of Naruto and signaled Naruto and Fu to back away while he observed the white spores on Sasuke's body. At this time, the white spores on Sasuke's body gradually became bigger and bigger, gradually turning into a white human shape. He grabbed Sasuke's neck with one hand and said in a strange tone, "Lord Jiraiya, please step back. Otherwise, this child's life will be in danger." Jiraiya frowned because he had already recognized a strange person wrapped around Sasuke's body. It was very similar to the member of the Akatsuki organization with two Nepenthes on his shoulders. There's no doubt that the thing wrapped around Sasuke's body at this time is a white Zetsu clone that was grown through Zetsu's Spore Jutsu. This Spore Jutsu is a very strange and secret technique of Zetsu. When it attaches to the target in the form of a seed, it is extremely difficult to detect. In the original story, when Zetsu secretly used the Spore Jutsu at the 5 Kage assembly, the 5 Kage and their entourage all fell into the trap. It must be known that many of those who accompanied the 5 Kage to the meeting were the best perception-type ninjas in their respective villages, and even Aoi, who had a Byakugan transplanted, was present, but none of them detected Zetsu's Spore Jutsu in advance. The white Zetsu clone that was created by the Spore technique peeked out from Sasuke's body and looked around. "Is this the legendary Mount Mayaboku?" Jiraiya asked sternly. "What do you want to do?" At this time, the white Zetsu clone's gaze moved to Naruto and Fu behind Jiraiya, and said with a smile, "My luck is really good. I actually found 2 Jinchuriki at once." The reason why Zetsu attached the seed of the Spore Jutsu to Sasuke instead of directly to Naruto or Jiraiya is that although the seed of the Spore Jutsu can hide from perceptual ninjutsu and dojitsu, it may not be able to hide from the keen intuition of the tailed beast, as well as the perception of malice. Therefore, Zetsu can only take a step back and spread the seed on the trainees of the same period as Naruto, hoping to use these trainees to locate Naruto's position and then take advantage of the chaos caused by Uchiha's rebellion tonight to take away Naruto. It was during this process that Zetsu was surprised to discover that there was another Jinchuriki hidden in Mai's ninja school. That is, the 7-tailed Jinchuriki standing next to Naruto, Rifu. This guy is really after the tailed beast. Jiraiya was shocked because he immediately realized that since the Akatsuki organization is targeting Naruto, it must also be targeting the other Jinchuriki. In other words, the 8-tailed Jinchuriki, who is with 4 generations Liang, as well as the 4 generations Mizukage, as well as the 3-tailed Jinchuriki, are probably in danger at this moment. At this moment, White Zetsu's doppelganger suddenly made a hand seal without warning. Jiraiya immediately reacted and shouted, "Ninjutsu, lion hair technique." In an instant, Jiraiya's white hair suddenly stretched out and rushed to White Zetsu's doppelganger, who was making hand seals. White Zetsu's doppelganger immediately shrank back, using Sasuke's body as a shield, and then taking advantage of the moment when Jiraiya was unwilling to hurt Sasuke, he completed the hand seal, psychic art. Bang! In an instant, a burst of white smoke exploded. Then, the red-haired Nagato came out of the smoke, glanced at Jiraiya in front of him, and then looked around and said to himself indifferently, "Is this Mount Mayaboku?" Seeing Nagato's figure appear, Jiraiya's pupils suddenly shrank, and he said to himself, "Oh no." Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes. monthly votes. In addition, thank you to the students who tipped yesterday. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 846. In the darkness of the night, Jishui, wearing a black cloak with golden edges and a flame-patterned mask, stepped out of the house. Then his figure flickered and jumped onto a towering pole in the middle of the clanland. Under the night wind, Jishui's robe fluttered in the wind as he looked down at the clanland from a high place with a gloomy expression. Tonight, he can't let any of his clansmen step out of the clanland, because as long as one of them steps out of the clanland, it will be a declaration that the Uchiha clan has rebelled. People of the clan, please face your own weakness, and then hate Amatsutsukami. Jishui activated his Manjikyu Sharingan and slowly pulled out the katana from his waist. At this moment, he is very glad that Hyojin founded Amatsutsukami, because hatred can't be easily resolved, but it can be transferred artificially. The original intention of Amatsutsukami is to attract hatred and keep the village and the Uchiha clan united. Tonight, what Jishui needs to do is to once again fulfill this mission of Amatsutsukami. Suddenly, a large group of heavily armed Uchiha clansmen appeared on the street. Among this group of aggressive clansmen, the leader is Uchiha Kiwa, who is responsible for raiding the Umbu base. Shursui, who was standing on the telephone pole, looked down and stared at the clansmen who were about to rebel. Uchiha Kiwa, who was walking at the front of the group, also noticed Jishui standing on the pole. Looking at Jishui dressed in Amatsutsukami's attire, he was taken aback and blurted out, "Homasubi." Jishui placed the katana in front of him and whispered in a voice that only he could hear, "Tonight, the Uchiha clan did not rebel, but was attacked by Amatsutsukami." After saying that, Jishui brandished the katana in front of him. His black cloak fluttered in the wind, and with the moonlight in the background, he looked like an angel of death, rushing into the group, led by Uchiha Kiwa. "You? Ah, damn it, everyone be careful." In an instant, the sounds of battle and battle cries broke the strange silence that the Uchiha clan had maintained all this time. On the other side of Uchiha's territory, Shinichi, who was also dressed as a fire demon, pulled out a dagger from Uchiha Zayasuk's body. Blood splashed everywhere. At this moment, the sounds of fighting could be heard from afar. Shinichi muttered, "Has it started over there too?" Yusuke Uchiha, who was supposed to be in charge of raiding my prison and releasing all the prisoners to disturb the village, struggled to hold on. He grabbed Shinichi's black cloak and asked with difficulty, "Fire Demon, you are also a member of Uchiha. Why are you protecting the village?" Without waiting for Shinichi to answer, Yusuke Uchiha Zayasuk breathed his last breath and died. Shinichi slowly closed Yusuke Uchiha Zayasuk's eyes. He said softly, "There is no hope of rebelling. If you want to hate someone, please hate our Amatsutsukami." Swish! Immediately afterward, the true body's figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. In a small forest near the outer wall of Uchiha's territory, Uchiha's Light was hiding with a few jonins of Uchiha clan. Their mission tonight was to lead the bounty ninjas and wandering swordsmen that the Uchiha clan had secretly hired into the village. They were to attack the various facilities of the village, create chaos, delay the Umbu and the other ninjas in the village to support the Naruto building, and buy more time for Patriarch Uchiha Fuyue and the two kaleidoscopes in the clan to raid the Elder Advisory Group. Looking at the night sky above his head, a jonin of Uchiha clan asked impatiently, "Can we act now?" Uchiha Kuroto looked at his watch, then immediately shook his head and said, "Don't worry, it's not time yet. We have to act together to create the greatest chaos." Uchiha Kuroto laughed and said, "Hey, I can't wait anymore." "Really?" Suddenly, a faint voice came from behind Uchiha Jonin. Uchiha Kuroto and the others who were hiding in the small forest were shocked and shouted at the shadow not far away, "Who is it?" At this time, Shinichi Uchiha, who was dressed as Homisubi of Amatsutsukami, walked out of the shadow and said, "Do you know how many casualties will be caused by leading the bounty ninjas and wandering swordsmen outside the wall into the village? Even a bastard like me didn't dare to think about this. Yen, Homasubi? Stunned for a moment, Uchiha Kuroto asked doubtfully, "Why are you here?" As soon as he finished asking, Uchiha Kuroto's gaze fell on the bloody short knife in Shinichi's hand. His heart skipped a beat, and he quickly shouted to the Jonin of Uchiha clan, "Quick, release the signal flare. Let the people outside the wall come in." Uchiha Kuroto was, after all, an elite Jonin of the Uchiha clan. From Shinichi's tone and the bloody short knife in his hand, he could sharply determine that the Homasubi in front of him was an enemy and not a friend. Swoosh soon, under Uchiha Kuroto's stern command, a shining signal flare cut through the night sky, and with a bang, a dazzling ball of light exploded in the night sky. Oomph! Looking at the ball of light that exploded in the sky, Shinichi snorted softly and then raised a short knife in a forest outside the wall. The dazzling ball of light exploded in the air, illuminating the dark forest. However, not many people in the forest could enjoy this beautiful scenery, because this forest, which was originally a secret gathering place for bounty ninjas and wandering swordsmen, had long been covered with corpses. The whole battle was coming to an end almost without any noise. Among the hundreds of bounty ninjas and wandering swordsmen in the forest, many of them didn't even see who killed them until they died. Under the illumination of the signal flare, there were only two figures standing in the forest. One of them was slowly retreating, while the other was wearing the eye-catching Naruto robe. Without caring about his right arm that was dripping with blood, he retreated and said, "I didn't expect Naruto-sama to come personally." Wearing the Hokage robe, Suijin laughed and said, "Don't you want to kill the Onijin?" "Huh, I didn't expect you to be one of the bounty ninjas hired by the Uchiha clan. It really surprised me." Hyojin was really a little surprised. He didn't expect that if he didn't kill this professional rebel, he would actually rebel against Mai. Zabuza took another step back and said, "Naruto-sama, why don't we stop here? If I fight with all my might, even you will be injured." This is not the first time that Zabuza fought with Hyojin. As early as a few years ago, he and Hyojin met on a mission. At that time, Hyojin used the inside of the Tenseigan to defeat Zabuza in an instant. That battle also became a stain in Zabuza's life when he just entered the Mist Village's assassination unit. But as Hyojin became the fifth Naruto, this stain is not a stain anymore. After all, losing to Naruto is not a shameful thing. Hyojin shook his head. "Your existence is the evidence of the Uchiha clan's rebellion." Knowing that he is not Hyojin's opponent, Zabuza quickly said in order to save his life, "If Naruto-sama needs me to testify against the Uchiha clan, I am willing to serve you." Hyojin raised the corner of his mouth. The Uchiha clan did not rebel tonight. Zabuza's heart trembled. He finally understood why Naruto dealt with the bounty ninjas alone. The first update is here. It's going to be a new week soon, and the leaderboard will be updated. I'm begging for recommendation votes. It's nothing, please support me. Thank you. Chapter 847. As a bystander, Hyojin has the most thorough understanding of the conflict between the Uchiha clan and the village. The key to all of this is the continuous decline of the Naruto clan and the fact that the Uchiha clan is growing stronger and stronger. This is the fuse of all this, because the conflict between the Uchiha clan and the village has existed since the beginning of the Mai clan's establishment. In other words, the conflict between the Uchiha clan and the Thousand Hand clan has lasted for hundreds of years in the chaotic and complicated Warring States period. The so-called reconciliation between the Uchiha clan and the Thousand Hand clan, from a neutral point of view, is actually just a euphemism for the Uchiha clan to surrender to the Thousand Hand clan, which has the first Sannin. Therefore, the conflict between the two sides has always existed and has never disappeared. And the fuse of the conflict this time is the imbalance of strength between the two sides. This time, the election of the fifth Sannin Naruto is a manifestation of the imbalance of strength between the two sides, because in the past, not to mention participating in the election of Naruto. Even squeezing into the advisory group of the Uchiha clan is extremely difficult. Therefore, the choice made by the Uchiha clan tonight is both a coincidence and an inevitability, because over a long period of time, the contrast of strength between the Uchiha clan and the village will always change. But this time, the rebellion of the Uchiha clan, the village also has to bear great responsibility. Because from the beginning to the end, the village has never given the Uchiha clan a channel to vent their emotions, especially after the return of Shinichi and Fuyue revealed the Manjikyu Sharingan. The village still has no intention of giving in. This has given the Uchiha clan an extremely desperate signal. That is, no matter how strong the Uchiha clan is, even if they have 3 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan that surpasses all the previous generations, they will never be able to ascend to the position of Naruto. Perhaps even the 3 generations himself did not realize that his decision this time had broken the tacit agreement that Naruto can't be Uchiha set by the 2nd generation swordsman back then, which was something that could be done but could never be said out loud. Not only did this stop Fuyue from ascending to the position of Naruto, but it also completely cut off the Uchiha clan's path of ascension to the position of Naruto through proper means, extinguishing all the hope the Uchiha clan had for the future. It was the severing of hope that caused Fuyue, who had always been indecisive, to completely fall to ambition. As for Hyojin, who had obtained the position of Naruto, he wasn't too happy. First of all, because he has a higher goal, and the identity of Naruto will become a hindrance to him in his pursuit of higher goals. Second, perhaps because he has no greed for the position of Naruto, so he can look at the election of the 5th generation Naruto more objectively, and the deeper reason why he obtained the position of Naruto. The village gave him the position of 5th generation swordsman this time. It seems that they were forced to do so, but in fact, there's a lot of selfishness hidden in it. Just think about it. As one of the 2 major shinobi clans that founded Mai, and also one of the 2 major dojutsu bloodline clans of Mai, the Uchiha clan has launched a rebellion. This is such an incredible thing in the eyes of other countries. So no matter which Naruto is in charge of this matter, it will be a stain on their reputation. This black pot, Naruto doesn't want to carry it, but someone has to be pushed out. And Hyojin is the person who was pushed out by Naruto, because once the Uchiha clan is destroyed because of the rebellion, the future descendants will only think that Hyojin, the 5th generation Naruto, forced the Uchiha clan to rebel in order to compete for the position of Naruto. Coincidentally, the Hyuga clan, where Hyojin is from, is also one of the 2 dojutsu bloodline clans in the village. With a little guidance of public opinion, the Hyuga clan can be blamed for the rebellion of the Uchiha clan on the head of the Hyuga clan, and this time the rebellion of the Uchiha clan will be led to the battle between the 2 dojutsu bloodline clans. It can be said that Hyojin, who is not a disciple of Naruto, but has the identity of a dojutsu bloodline clans, is really the best candidate to be the scapegoat. This is also the reason why Hyojin can become Naruto with the identity of the Hyuga clan. And Hyojin himself has long seen through this point. After Jishue, Shinichi, and Itachi reported the rebellion of the Uchiha clan, he jokingly said to you that he is the scapegoat Naruto because of this point. Because from the point of view of the bystanders, it is obvious that the actions of the Konoha village are trying to quickly intensify the conflict and solve the problem of the Uchiha clan, which is regarded as a chronic disease by the Hokage clan. All the controversies and stains are put on Hyojin, who is not from a Naruto clan, the 5th generation Naruto, and then Naruto clan will take back the position of Naruto and continue from the 6th generation. The Uchiha clan did not rebel tonight. When he said this to Zabuza, Kuroto's mouth curled up into a smile. This big and round black pot, he didn't want to carry it, because he only charged the village the labor fee of being a Hokage. Realizing that Hyojin, Naruto came here alone to kill and kill, Zabuza's face became ferocious. Hyojin, do you know why I'm called Ghost Man? Even if you were a Hokage, as long as you force me, this evil spirit of mine can also tear a piece of flesh from your body. Ghost. With a smile, Hyojin said, "What a coincidence." Swish, under the fading light of the signal flare in the night sky, Hyojin dragged a long shadow and pounced on Zabuza opposite him. Without the beheading knife in the original space and time, Zabuza's strength did not even reach the level of an elite ninja. In addition, his momentum was taken away and he was timid, so he was no match for Hyojin at all. In the blink of an eye, he was stabbed in the chest by Hyojin's sword. Cough, cough! Zabuza, who was coughing up blood, looked down at the Kusanagi pill that had pierced through his chest. In fear, he suddenly opened his bloody mouth. Hyojin, even if I die, I will tear a piece of flesh from your body. With that, Zabuza tried to bite Hyojin with all his might. Bang! Hyojin's expression did not change, and he kicked Zabuza away in the Uchiha clan's mansion. Uchiha, who was sitting quietly in the hall, was adjusting his state for the ultimate battle that was about to happen. Because of the previous election of the 5th Naruto, he had used the 2 Manjikyu Sharingan techniques, Susu and Amaterasu, so Fuyue's vision had also declined significantly. This made him realize that the use of the Manjikyu Sharingan was not without a price, so tonight's battle had to be finished quickly. Suddenly, there was a sudden burst of noise in the clan's land outside. Fuyue, who was sitting quietly, raised his eyebrows, and an ominous feeling arose in his heart. Now was not the time to officially launch the rebellion. Logically speaking, the clansmen who had been warned by him would not make a noise for no reason. Just as Fuyue was about to get up and check, a figure walked into the hall. The second update. The list will be updated on Monday, and I beg for everyone's recommendation votes. Everyone has this vote, and it's just a small effort. I hope everyone can support it. Also, thank you to the students who gave gifts yesterday. Thank you. Chapter 848. When he saw that it was his son Itachi who walked into the hall, Fuyue's expression relaxed a little, but then he frowned again. Why haven't you set off yet? According to the original plan, Itachi should have led a small team to sneak out of the clan's land at this time, to lock the whereabouts of the 5th generation Naruto, and prepare to launch a beheading operation against the 5th generation Naruto. Shrouded in the cold moonlight, Itachi stood at the door of the hall and said calmly, "Father, please stop." Fuyue frowned and looked beyond Itachi to the outside of the mansion. At this time, the noise outside had evolved into painful wails and angry shouts. Obviously, what broke out in the clan's land was not an ordinary riot, but ninja war. Realizing this, Fuyue's eyes gradually became sharp. Itachi, have you defected to the village? In the face of his father's questioning, Itachi lowered his eyes. Father, the rebellion you planned is a tragedy that is destined to fail. For the village, for the family, I must stop you. Hump, stupid guy. With a light snort, Fuyue roared with a sullen face. Do you think this rebellion is only because of my personal ambition? It is the village that cannot tolerate us Uchiha. We have no other way to go. In Fuyue's view, the Uchiha clan has the strength to threaten Naruto, but can't become Naruto, so they will inevitably be regarded as a thorn in the side of the village. If they don't strike first, they will certainly be controlled by others. Itachi shook his head. Naruto-sama will give us justice, Fuyue said angrily. 5th generation? He himself is a powerless puppet. What ability does he have to give justice to us Uchiha, to give us Uchiha protection? Itachi raised his head and met his father's eyes. I can't be sure about the future, but your action tonight has no chance of success. Please stop. Fuyue looked at Itachi with incomparable disappointment, but his ears were focused on the sounds coming from the clan's land outside the mansion. Listening carefully, Kuroto found that the wails outside were all made by his people, and the ninja battles that broke out didn't seem to be very fierce. Many of the battles ended as soon as they started, as if the people on his side were defeated by the enemy. Fuyue himself was also a shadow rank powerhouse, so he quickly deduced that the enemies attacking his people outside might not be many, but their strength was definitely not ordinary. The Uchiha clansmen who participated in the rebellion tonight not only had high morale, but they were also armed to the teeth. Therefore, they needed to be at least at the Kage level to get rid of their own clansmen so easily. Seeing his father's puzzled expression, Itachi continued. Naruto-sama has already reached an agreement with Amitsukami. Not only that, but the four shadows are also on the village's side. Fuyue glared at Itachi. Are you the one who leaked the family secret? Itachi shook his head. Your rebellion was within the village's expectations from the beginning to the end. Even the departure of the four shadows today was part of the village's plan to lure you to rebel. This is impossible. Fuyue's face suddenly became extremely ugly. Itachi pleaded, as long as you stop now, as long as no one steps out of the clan tonight, then there is still room for us to turn things around. Fuyue scolded bitterly. Idiot, you have been used by the village. Itachi said flatly. It is because your vision is limited by narrow-mindedness that you can't see the real road ahead. The future that my Manjikyu Sharingan can see is the road ahead. After a pause, Fuyue shouted, there are 3 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan in the clan. We have nothing to fear, Itachi said with a bitter expression. In front of Naruto-sama, the Manjikyu Sharingan is just a toy. I can't believe that a coward like you is actually my son. After restraining the anger on his face, Fuyue asked, where are Jishuei and Shinichi? Itachi casually said, maybe they are fighting against the people of Amitsukami. While activating his Manjikyu Sharingan, Fuyue said coldly, if failure is inevitable, then our Uchiha clan will also leave a deep scar on the village, so that they will forever remember how terrible the anger of the Uchiha clan is. After saying that, Fuyue ignored Itachi's dissuasion and went to participate in the battle. At this time, Itachi flashed in front of Fuyue. His eyes were extremely firm. Fuyue said disdainfully, you should understand that ordinary Manjikyu Sharingan can't fight against Manjikyu Sharingan. Step back, you can't stop me. Itachi, who had activated his Manjikyu Sharingan, once again met his father's gaze. You? Looking at the Manjikyu Sharingan in his son's eye sockets, Fuyue was shocked. He has always been very clear that his son is a genius close to Jishuei, and is also the most likely person in the clan to awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan. But he never thought that his son would secretly awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan without his knowledge. After a brief moment of surprise, Fuyue's heart surged with anger. Why did you hide it from me? Itachi said, if I let you know that I have also awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan, it will only accelerate your rebellion and accelerate the destruction of the Uchiha clan, so I can only choose to hide it. Fuyue was so angry that he laughed. Uchiha, who has the Manjikyu Sharingan, would betray his own family. Is there anything more ridiculous than this? Itachi opened his mouth, but in the end, nothing came out. Looking at his son's twisted and painful face, Fuyue smiled. Well, then let our Manjikyu Sharingan decide who chose the right path. In an instant, Fuyue used his Manjikyu Sharingan's pupil technique and pulled his son Itachi into his black and white Jinjutsu space. Itachi, who fell into the Manjikyu Jinjutsu, calmly observed the surroundings. There was no trace of panic on his face. His father's choice to use Jinjutsu to compete is undoubtedly the best result for Itachi. This way, he cannot affect the ordinary Uchiha clansmen around him, and he can also stop at any time. At this time, a voice came from the air of the black and white Jinjutsu space. Itachi, if you want me to stop, then use your Manjikyu Sharingan to defeat me. Outside the Jinjutsu space, the paper sliding door leading to the side hall was slowly opened at this time, revealing the figure of Uchiha Mikoto. Looking at her husband and son who were confronting each other, she didn't do anything, just knelt and sat aside, quietly waiting for the result. She heard all the dialogue between her husband and son in the hall. Just now, she couldn't tell whether her husband Fuyue was wrong or her son Itachi was wrong. At this time, the sound of fighting outside gradually calmed down, leaving only many intermittent wails. The first update is here, asking for recommendation votes. Monthly votes. The recommendation votes are refreshed every day. Everyone has one. Please don't forget to support me. Chapter 849. On the long street of the Uchiha clan, Jishuei stood quietly at the end of the street. The dagger in his hand was dripping with blood. Wearing a black cloak with golden edges and a mask with a flame pattern on it, he looked like a real demon of slaughter. His body was emitting a cold aura that kept people away. The fully armed Uchiha clansmen were lying on the ground. The ground was covered in pools of blood, and the air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. Damn it, my leg. We, the Uchiha clan, will never let you go. Although the curses and wails were weak, they came one after another. Obviously, many of the Uchiha clansmen who were lying on the ground were not dead. Most of them were only seriously injured and could not move. Only a few of them were killed. Listening to the curses in his ears, Homusubi's heart didn't waver too much, because this is both Kuroto's request and also what he expects. First, he did not want to kill too many clansmen. Second, if he killed everyone, how could God's organization attract hatred? How could he let the clansmen realize how weak they were? With that thought in mind, he held the dagger that was dripping with blood and patrolled the long street. Everywhere he went, the curses became weaker. The injured Uchiha clansmen on the ground were not idiots. In a situation where they were meat on the chopping block, there were not many idiots who would let their temper run wild. However, grievances and hatred were growing in the hearts of these arrogant Uchiha clansmen. Although the village tried to exclude the Uchiha clan, at least the two sides did not really fight with weapons. The Uchiha clan was angry and resentful towards the village, but the blood feud had not been formed yet. However, the brazen attack of God's organization, the Balrog, had killed many Uchiha clansmen, causing the arrogant Uchiha clansmen to bleed all over the street. Whoosh! Boom! At this moment, the signal flare released by Uchiha's light dome exploded in the night sky. Jishuei turned his head and looked over. There was not much worry on his face under the mask, because he knew that the fifth-generation Naruto Hyuujin had personally gone to deal with the criminal evidence that could prove that the Uchiha clan had launched a rebellion. Outside the Uchiha clan, Kakashi, who was hiding in a small forest, was looking solemnly at the Uchiha clan land not far away. Beside him, there was a large number of fully armed Black Ops. This group of Umbu is not only large in number, there are more than 100 squads, nearly 500 Umbu ninjas, and each of them is carefully selected by the advisory elder group. It can be said that they are the elite of the elite. And their mission is to give the Uchiha clan a head-on blow as soon as they start a rebellion. Listening to the faint commotion coming from the Uchiha clan land, Asuma, who was also in the team, asked Kakashi, "Is it God's organization inside? What should we do now?" Kakashi replied, "Kuroto has told us that as long as the Uchiha clan does not step out of the clan land tonight, we should not act rashly." Asuma nodded. "Yes, I hope that no Uchiha will step out of their clan land tonight." Whoosh, boom. At this time, the signal flare that exploded in the night sky in the distance attracted the attention of everyone in the forest. Asuma was shocked and said, "Oh no, it's a signal flare. The rebellion has officially started." Looking in the direction of the signal flare, Kakashi said, "It's the direction of the outer wall. If I'm not wrong, that should be the signal flare used by the Uchiha clan to inform them of the recruitment of the bounty ninjas and the wandering swordsmen." Asuma asked, "If those guys enter the village, it will be bad, I'll go." Kakashi nodded. "Okay, you now lead 20 squads to the outer wall over there to set up a defense. Must not let any bounty ninjas and wandering swordsmen slip into the village." On the roof of the Naruto building, looking at the striking signal flare in the distant night sky, the brows of the three generations wrinkled. Tsunade, who was standing on the side, said to herself, "This should be the signal of the official start of the rebellion, right?" The three generations turned to Tsunade and asked, "Haven't you found the whereabouts of Lei Ying, the Mizukage, and others?" Tsunade shook her head helplessly. "The village is facing the rebellion of the Uchiha clan tonight, and almost all the available manpower is deployed to deal with the Uchiha clan. So there is no manpower to search for the traces of Lei Ying and the Mizuki's. The expression on the face of the three generations became more dignified. Up until now, Lei Ying and the Mizuki's haven't met at the assembly point, which means that they must have encountered an accident. Well, it's probably the Akatsuki, Tsunade said with certainty, because in the shinobi world, only the Akatsuki and Amatsukami can intercept Lei Ying and the Mizuki's, and Amatsukami is dealing with the rebellion of the Uchiha clan at the moment. So the only one left is the Akatsuki. What's more, the goal of the Akatsuki is the tailed beast, and both Lei Ying and the Mizuki's have Jinchuriki in their team. The three generations continued to ask, hasn't Jiraiya come back yet? Tsunade also felt a little strange at this moment. It stands to reason that he should have come back long ago, but I don't know what happened to him. On the roof of a tall building in the village. At this moment, a black shadow was also looking at the explosion of the signal flare in the distance, and the corner of his mouth curled up as he said mockingly, "The idiots of the Uchiha clan finally made their move. But this is not enough. Let me add some fuel to the fire." The black shadow laughed as he disappeared from the roof. His speed was so fast that it was as if he never existed. Not long after, the black shadow arrived outside a remote building located in the southeast corner of the village. This seemingly inconspicuous building was, in fact, a secret stronghold belonging to the Black Ops. There was an independent underground palace below the building. Who is it? The moment the black shadow appeared, for Umbu flashed and surrounded the black shadow. Umph! With a light snort, with just a thought from the black shadow, the four Umbu instantly lost control of their bodies and flew towards the black shadow. Swish! A sword light flashed, blood splattered, and then the four Umbu fell to the ground with a look of disbelief on their faces and stopped breathing. After getting rid of the guards on the ground, the black shadow strode into the building and then killed all the guards along the way. The guard along the way didn't even have a chance to send out a signal, and he easily broke into the deepest part of the underground palace. Soon, the black shadow stopped in front of a huge black iron box and smiled. Sure enough, it's here. There is no doubt that the huge black iron box in front of the black shadow is the box of bliss that caused great damage to Mai in the battle where Mai was destroyed. Although this box of bliss was a Kusanagi ninja, because it was too dangerous, it was secretly sealed in the underground palace by Mai. Here's the second update. Continue to ask for recommendation votes, monthly votes. Also, thank you to the students who tipped yesterday. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 850. Puff. As soon as the black shadow's hand touched the box of bliss, the seal on the box of bliss shot out a flame, burning the black shadow's arm that was reaching for the box of bliss. Hey! The black shadow chuckled, and the spreading flames on his arm suddenly extinguished. Then, the shadow just grabbed the void in the direction of the box of bliss, and the chakra on the seal of the box of bliss poured into his body. Hiss, without the support of chakra, the seal on the outside of the box of bliss began to spontaneously combust, and after a while, the seal all over the box of bliss disappeared completely. After solving the seal, the shadow pressed his hand on the relief on the surface of the box of bliss and immediately said, "Sure enough, as the Akatsuki said, it's full of hunger and desire." There is no doubt that the shadow that sneaked into the underground palace is Hyuga Aoki, who has recently cooperated with the Akatsuki. During the battle, when Mai was destroyed, Hyuga Aoki used his disability to hide in the shelter with the old, weak, women, and children, and then used the spiritualization technique to sneak out of the shelter without being noticed. Not only did he take advantage of the chaos of a war to collect the secret ancient books hidden in the Hyuga clan secret vault, but he also accidentally found the place where the Umbu sealed the box of bliss. After cooperating with the Akatsuki, Hyuga Aoki not only got the perfect puppet he dreamed of, but also learned the method to open the box of bliss. The method is also very simple. If you want to open the box of bliss and release the monster Satoshi inside, you must provide the box of bliss with a lot of chakra. The last time the box of bliss was opened, the Akatsuki used the captured Jinchuriki Yuki and the tailed beast-class chakra to open it. Retracting his arm, Hyuga Aoki asked with a smile, "Do you want chakra?" Thump! Thump! The box of bliss emitted a sound that sounded like a heartbeat. Kuroda Aoki smiled and said, "All right, I'll give you as much as you want." With that said, Kuroda Aoki pressed his hands together on the box of bliss and continuously sent Tenseigan chakra into the box of bliss. Even the weaker, giant Tenseigan of the Hyuga clan has far more chakra amount than a tailed beast. What's more, the quality of the Tenseigan chakra is by no means comparable to the average tailed beast chakra, so the box of bliss that almost drained the power of Nibi's Jinchuriki open last time quickly reached the critical point of opening this time. Boom! With a deafening roar, Wu, who had black feathers and bared fangs, broke through the dome of the underground palace. He spread his wings and flew above me like a huge shadow. Monster! What is that? Damn it, the box of bliss has been opened. Quick! Go and inform the 3 generations. With the appearance of Satoshi, Konoha immediately fell into chaos, and the shrill sirens sounded one after another. Shuttling through the chaotic crowd, Kuroda Aoki had a calm smile on his face. Perhaps the Tenseigan chakra originally has the characteristics of controlling everything. So unlike the last time when Kuroda opened the box of bliss in the Kusanagi village, Satoshi didn't lose control this time, but became a weapon that obeyed Kuroda's orders. In fact, the box of bliss is a weapon. The land of grass once used the box of bliss to almost rule the entire shinobi world. So the last opening of the Kusanagi village was just an example of failure. But this is just a surprise for Kuroda Aoki. He doesn't care whether Wu is controlled or not. He only needs Wu to create chaos. Kuroda Aoki's calmness formed a great contrast with the panicked villagers around him. And this has also attracted the attention of many Konoha ninjas along the way. But all the Konoha ninjas who came forward to investigate couldn't stop Hyuga Aoki's casual attack, and were easily dealt with by Hyuga Aoki as if they were not on the same level at all. This kind of power is really fascinating. Kuroda Aoki clenched his fist, and a trace of emotion appeared on his face. After gradually adapting to the puppet provided by the Akatsuki organization, he realized that he could be so strong, coupled with the various magical abilities of the giant Tenseigan. If it weren't for the Otsutsuki on the moon, he would even feel that he is unparalleled and invincible in the world. At this moment, Kuroda Aoki met an old acquaintance on the street. Kuroda Rich's eyes widened, and his face was full of disbelief. "You are Aoki. How are you still alive?" After confirming that Kuroda Aoki had defected, the clan immediately launched the cage bird curse. So according to common sense, Kuroda Aoki should have died somewhere in the shinobi world. Kuroda Aoki said with a playful smile, "It's Richa." Listening to Kuroda Aoki's tone, Rich's brows gradually wrinkled, and he vigilantly activated the Byakugan. "You really are Aoki? Hey, what about the cage bird curse on your forehead? No, this is not your body." Kuroda Aoki smiled carelessly. "You found out so quickly? As expected of Richa. Are you going to the clan's land?" Realizing the seriousness of the problem, Richa immediately shouted, "What are you going to do? Don't tell me. Do you want to take revenge on the clan?" "Yes." Kuroda Aoki spat out these 2 words indifferently. He instigated the Uchiha clan to rebel, release Satoshi, and other actions were to create chaos, involving the village's forces, so that it would be convenient for him to take revenge on the clan. Hizashi-sama hurriedly said, "Aoki, killing is meaningless. Kuroda has become the Hokage. With him, we have a better way to fight for the rights and benefits." "Don't mention Hyojin to me. I am the savior who broke the fate of the clan." Kuroda Aoki suddenly became angry and directly reached out his hand towards Richa and used Rain Pull. Hizashi, who had lost control of his body and was being pulled towards Hyuga Aoki, was shocked. When he was entangled with Otsutsuki Tonari, he had already experienced this ability, So he quickly suppressed all the doubts in his mind and immediately used the absolute defensive method of the Hyuga clan, revolving heaven. Voila, like a spinning top, Richa turned into a spinning chakra ball in midair. Humph! After a disdainful snort, Kuroto Aoki instantly changed the suction force into a repulsive force and sent Richa, who had used revolving heaven, flying out and slamming into a small building on the street. Whoosh! Immediately afterward, Kuroto Aoki's figure flashed and rushed into the small building. With only one punch, he knocked out Richa, who was covered in dust, and then reached into Richa's chest, took out a small memory light ball, and read through Richa's memory, and learned about the defense deployment in the Hyuga clan tonight. First, I sincerely ask for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Please support me. Chapter 851. After browsing Richa's memory ball, Kuroto Aoki did not kill Richa, who was unconscious on the ground. In the Hyuga clan, the only person Hyuga Aoki hates is the Zone clan, as well as the Zone clan who rejected his kindness, causing him to be in a sorry state and inexplicably becoming the 5th Hokage. Of course, whether he hated Kuroto more or whether he was jealous of him, he couldn't say for sure. As for Richa, who had fainted on the ground, Kuroto Aoki not only didn't hate him, but also sympathized with him. The way he saw it, Hisashi's life was simply a joke played by fate. Just because he was born a little late, he lost his position as the head of the family and became a prisoner of fate with the curse of the caged bird engraved on his forehead. Immediately, Kuroto Aoki grinned again. Although Hisashi has been reduced to a branch family, his strength is not to be underestimated. Even compared to Hyuga Hayashi, his strength is not to be underestimated, but even such an elite Jonin-level powerhouse couldn't put up any resistance in front of Hyuga Aoki, which made Hyuga Aoki have a deeper understanding of his own strength. Now, in the village, there should be no one who could be my opponent. After a proud smile, Kuroto Aoki felt that even if all the masters in the village, including the 3 generations Naruto and Sannin, besieged him, he was confident that he could wipe them all out, because he had deeply realized that the Tenseigan was invincible. Walking out of the damaged house, Kuroto Aoki glanced at the Hyuga clan not far away, and then disappeared in a flash in the mansion of the Hyuga clan. Rumble. Listening to the constant roar coming from the outside, the elder of the clan walked out of his bedroom with an irritated face and asked a branch member who was responsible for serving him, "What's the situation outside? Is there anything wrong with the clan?" The branch member quickly replied, "Elder, everything is normal in the clan. As for the situation outside, Seeing that the branch family member was stammering, it was clear that he didn't manage to get any useful information. The ancestral elder immediately reprimanded, "Useless trash. I'm sorry to disappoint you." The branch family members hurriedly knelt on the ground and bowed deeply. The elder from the Zone clan frowned as he asked again, "Is there any news of Hyjin?" The branch family member who was kneeling on the ground replied helplessly, "I'm sorry, I haven't heard of Naruto-sama's whereabouts yet." "Then what are you still doing here? Go and find him." Waving his hand, the Zone family elder continued, "After you find that fellow Hyjin, interrogate him properly. What exactly happened tonight? Why is the entire village in such a mess?" At the mention of Hyjin, the Zone family elder was full of anger. The previous fight at the family meeting and the incident of Mizuki falsely accusing Hyjin at the high-level meeting of the village made him and Hyjin completely fall out, so he didn't become less respectful even though Hyjin became Naruto and still called Hyjin's name directly. "Yes, I'll go and inquire." After responding, the branch family members hurriedly retreated as if a heavy burden had been lifted off their shoulders. After the branch family members left, the Zone family elder returned to his bedroom and sat down angrily. The chaos outside and the bursts of explosions from time to time made it difficult for him to sleep, but he didn't plan to go out to help the village resist the strong enemy. In his view, as the Zone family elder, his life was very precious. There was no need for him to participate in such a dangerous battle. Even if the village really sent someone to ask for help from the Hyojin clan, it was a matter for the branch family. Hyojin is getting more and more outrageous. Even if he became Naruto, he can't forget the family. Protecting the noble Zong family is the mission of the branch family. They should feel honored. The Zong family elder said to himself, as if it was a matter of course. Is that so? Suddenly, a voice full of ridicule came from the shadows in the room. The Zong family elder was shocked and asked, "Who?" At this time, Hyojin Aoki came out of the shadows with an evil smile on his face. After seeing Hyojin Aoki, the Zong family elder shouted as if he had seen a ghost. "You! How are you still alive? This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible." After confirming that Hyojin Aoki had betrayed him, the person who activated the caged bird curse to execute Hyojin Aoki was none other than him. So he was extremely shocked that Hyojin Aoki was still alive. Hyojin Aoki grinned and said, "I am still alive? You must be very surprised." The Zong family elder subconsciously formed a seal and shouted, "Seal." Hyojin Aoki took a step forward and slowly walked towards the Zong family elder. The smile on his face was even wider. At this time, he was enjoying the feeling of toying with his enemy. "Seal, seal, seal." The elder of the ancestral family kept activating the cage bird curse seal, but found that Hyuga Aoki in front of him was not affected at all. So the surprise on his face gradually turned into fear, and even his hands that were forming seals couldn't stop trembling. How can this be? This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. How can a cripple like you break free from the shackles of the caged bird? After the incantation failed, the ancestral family elder fell to the ground on his butt. His body shuffled backwards as he muttered in fear. At this time, Hyojin Aoki stretched out his arm and strangled the Zong family elder's neck. He lifted the Zong family elder up like a pig or a dog. "If I remember correctly, you were the one who proposed to execute Aoki." Looking at the ferocious smile on Hyojin Aoki's face, the Zong family elder was so scared that his face turned pale. No, it had nothing to do with me. That was the decision of the patriarch. Hyojin Aoki increased the strength in his hand and said, "So, I remembered wrongly?" The Zong family elder, who was almost unable to breathe and whose face was as red as a pig's liver, began to beg for mercy. Please let me go. I was wrong. Cry and repent." Seeing his enemy struggling in front of him, the smile on Hyojin Aoki's face became even more twisted. At this moment, he finally tasted the taste of revenge, and this taste was so sweet and so tempting that it caused him to be intoxicated by it and be unable to free himself from it. Suddenly, the Byakugan in the left eye of the Zong family elder, who was deep in panic and despair, turned into a scarlet Sharingan without warning, and it was not an ordinary triple Tomo Sharingan, but a Manjikyu Sharingan that showed the pattern of the Tri-Blade Shuriken. At the same time, the moment he saw the Manjikyu Sharingan in the left eye of the Zong family elder, Hyojin Aoki, who was extremely mad, fell into a daze. Here's the second update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. In addition, thank you to the students who gave gifts yesterday. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 852. The sudden change caused the Zong clan elder, who was on the verge of death, to be stunned. After that, an enormous wave of dizziness swept through his mind, causing him to wail uncontrollably. Subsequently, a portion of sealed memories appeared in his mind. He remembered a night a few days ago when Uchiha Jishui, Uchiha Shinichi, and Itachi Uchiha sneaked into the Zong family's mansion and attacked him. Among them, Uchiha Shinichi subdued him. Itachi Uchiha seemed to have cast some kind of technique on his left eye, and finally, Uchiha Jishui cast an illusion technique to seal his memory of the attack. And just as he was about to lose consciousness, he vaguely remembered that someone had pushed the door open and walked in. At that time, a glimmer of hope rose in Kuroto's heart, because he was in the Hyuga clan's main residence, As long as he was caught by the Hyuga clan, no matter how strong the 3 Uchiha shinobi are, they would only be able to escape. But just as a glimmer of hope rose in his heart, he was shocked to find that the person who pushed the door open was actually wearing Naruto's robe. It's Tenseigan. Recalling this memory, the elder of the Zong family's face was full of fear and shock. Indeed, he had a reason to be shocked, because even now he could not believe what had happened in front of him and could not understand what had happened in front of him. Hyuga Aoki, who he thought should have rotted even his bones, appeared in front of him alive and seemed to have gotten rid of the caged bird curse that could never be removed. What shocked him even more was that Hyuga seemed to have known that Hyuga Aoki was not dead. Moreover, he had predicted that Hyuga Aoki would seek revenge on him, so he had done something on him in advance, taking advantage of Hyuga Aoki's carelessness when taking revenge and plotting against Hyuga Aoki. How did Hyuga know that Kuroto Aoki is not dead? Forget about Uchiha Jisue, but why would Uchiha Shinichi and Itachi Uchiha listen to Hyuga? When did Itachi Uchiha awaken his Manjikyu Sharingan? And what did he do to my left eye? Itachi Uchiha is working for Hyuga, so is Hyuga's goal all along? I'm just a bait. One doubt after another surged into the elder's mind, causing him to fall into an inexplicable confusion. Unable to sort out all of this, he subconsciously looked at Hyuga Aoki, who was in a daze in front of him, inside Tsukimi's illusion space. Looking at the scarlet surroundings and the looming huge Sharingan in the sky, Kuroto Aoki quickly realized that he has fallen into a Jinjutsu, and it is not an ordinary Jinjutsu. Damn it, I was too careless. Kuroto Aoki's face sank. With the support of the giant Tenseigan behind him, his resistance to Jinjutsu is definitely the best in the shinobi world. Ordinary Jinjutsu is meaningless to him, and even if it is a high-level Jinjutsu, as long as he is vigilant, it is difficult to trick him. But just now, he was addicted to enjoying his revenge, and his will relax for a moment, so he accidentally fell into the Jinjutsu. The shock of that trash when he saw me doesn't seem to be fake. The person who set this trap should be someone else. Is it the Uchiha clan? Whether it is the Manjikyu Sharingan that transformed from the elder's left eye, or the Sharingan phantom hanging high in the sky at this moment, all of them point to the Uchiha clan. And at this moment, Itachi Uchiha slowly appeared in front of him. You are Itachi Uchiha? At the moment when he recognized the identity of Itachi Uchiha, Kuroto Aoki was surprised to find that he was tied to a stake and couldn't move. After struggling to no avail, Kuroto Aoki snorted with disdain. Well, Jinjutsu is meaningless to me. Don't even think about getting any information from my mouth. However, the Jinjutsu torture that Kuroto Aoki was waiting for did not happen. In front of him, Itachi Uchiha just took out a kunai indifferently and then stabbed it into his body. Kuroto Aoki, who was unprepared, almost cried out in pain. Logically speaking, this body of his was just a puppet, so there was no corresponding sense of pain. However, after the kunai pierced into his body, he realized that the pain was so real, as if his body had really been pierced by the kunai. This pain comes from my spirit body. This is not an ordinary Jinjutsu. This is a Jinjutsu that can affect my spirit body. Realizing this, Kuroto Aoki's face turned cold. But soon, his expression returned to indifference, because he knew that with the amount of chakra's amount in his body, the other party's Jinjutsu would not last long. As long as he clenched his teeth and persisted for a while, he could break free from the Jinjutsu. If the other party took the opportunity to attack his external body, at most, he would lose a puppet. And once his body was attacked, the giant Tenseigan might make an emergency response, and then he could get rid of this Jinjutsu faster. After figuring out his situation, Kuroto Aoki said calmly, Itachi Uchiha, I have to admit that I underestimated your Uchiha this time. I didn't expect that even you have Manjikyu Sharingan, but as I said just now, don't even think about getting any information from me. Itachi just glanced at Kuroto Aoki coldly, and then stabbed the second kunai into Kuroto Aoki's body without saying a word. Kuroda Aoki, who was in pain, looked at Itachi Uchiha in front of him with some surprise. The trap laid by the Uchiha clan for Kuroda is undoubtedly exquisite, because the Uchiha clan not only anticipated that Kuroda would come to seek revenge on the elder of the clan, but also secretly controlled the elder of the clan in advance, and even tampered with the left eye of the clan. Chapter 853. Looking at Hyuga Aoki, who had fallen into the illusion and seemed to have lost his consciousness, the Zone family elder was overjoyed. He then tried to break free from Hyuga Aoki's grip on his neck. But at this moment, Hyuga Aoki, who had fallen into a daze, suddenly recovered. So fast, the Zone family elder was shocked. From the moment Hyuga Aoki fell into the illusion to the moment he broke free, only 1 or 2 breaths had passed. In such a short time, he did not even have time to break the shackles on his neck and shout for help, let alone kill the enemy and save himself. Huff! Huff! Hyuga Aoki panted heavily. His face no longer had the joy of revenge. Instead, it was replaced by a deep sense of exhaustion that could not be concealed. This exhaustion seemed to come from his soul, and his body was filled with a weak aura. Fast! Hearing the Zone family elder's surprise, Hyuga Aoki said hatefully, "I stayed in that damn illusion for 3 whole days." Feeling the cold-killing intent in Hyuga Aoki's tone, the Zone family elder immediately understood that Hyuga Aoki would not let him go. So he tried to take the opportunity to break Hyuga Aoki's grip on his neck, fighting for the last chance of survival. At this time, Hyuga Aoki tightened his grip and glared at the Zone family elder. "You idiot!" As the pressure on his neck increased, the Zone family elder's face turned red again. He cried, "No, it has nothing to do with me. I don't know what happened just now. I didn't plot against you. Since you don't know anything, then you can go to hell." Crack! With that, Hyuga Aoki crushed the Zone family elder's neck. Looking at the enemy who had already breathed his last, Hyuga Aoki, who had gotten his revenge, did not feel too happy. Because of his carelessness just now, his soul had been tortured in the illusory space for 3 days and 3 nights, almost to the point of exhaustion. If he didn't immediately return to the body of his main body to nourish it, his spiritual body was very likely to directly disintegrate due to the weakness. But at this moment, he could not abandon this puppet and fly back to the body of his original body in the form of a pure spiritual body. Because once he lost the protection of the puppet, his weak spiritual body would not be able to hold on for long. Damn it, I can only put the massacre of the Zone family aside for now. Kuroda Aoki quickly made a decision. Tonight, his plan to exact vengeance on the Zone clan had to be temporarily halted, because he didn't have much time left. If he didn't hurry back to the side of his original body as soon as possible and allow his spirit body to recuperate, his weakened soul might collapse at any moment. At that time, there will no longer be a Hyuga Aoki in the shinobi world. Having made up his mind, Kuroda Aoki quickly plucked out the Byakuga from the Zone clan elder's eye sockets, especially the left eye. The reason why he tolerated this elder who repeatedly opposed him and even used Mizuki to falsely accuse him to live to this day is because he heard that this guy was the executor of the execution of Hyuga Aoki. If Hyojin was in Hyuga Aoki's position and got the giant Tenseigan, he would also find a way to avenge his brother's death, so this elder of the clan became a natural bait, a bait to lure Hyuga Aoki out. And after learning that Hyuga Aoki colluded with Uchiha Fuyue and that he would act on the night of the Uchiha clan's rebellion, Hyojin was more certain of Hyuga Aoki's motives. So there was this trap. Boom! At this time, there was another explosion in the village. Walking out of the house, Hyojin looked at Satoshi, who was flying in the night sky in the distance, and his face was a little gloomy. Hyuga Aoki would release Satoshi. This is really beyond his expectation. Originally, with his character, he should not care about anything at this time, and directly follow Hyuga Aoki and seize the giant Tenseigan. But listening to the wailing of the villagers in the village, looking at the Naruto robe on his body, he sighed faintly and immediately made a hand seal, shadow clone technique. Bang! In a burst of white smoke, Hyojin separated a shadow clone. After taking off the gourd from his waist and handing it to the shadow clone, Hyojin's original body no longer hesitated, and his figure flashed and chased in the direction where Hyuga Aoki had left. As for Hyojin's shadow clone, he silently tied the gourd and looked coldly at Satoshi, who was wreaking havoc in the village. Here's the second update. Please support me with recommendation votes and monthly votes. Also, thank you to the students who gave me gifts today. Thank you, everyone. Suchikage and Kazekage are the last cards of the village to deal with the Uchiha clan's rebellion. After all, the Uchiha clan has 3 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan, and it is still unknown how many people Amatsukami has invested in dealing with the Uchiha clan. Therefore, 3 generations feel that it is still necessary to keep Suchikage and Kazekage as a trump card for the time being in order to deal with other emergencies. Tsunade frowned and said, "What should we do with the monster in the sky?" Sandaime looked up at the night sky as he fell into deep thought. The lack of a powerful flying ninja is one of Mai's current shortcomings. This flaw is usually not obvious, but when dealing with a flying monster like Satoshi, it suddenly becomes prominent. At this moment, the pupils of 3 generations suddenly shrunk, and he exclaimed, "Oh no!" The reason why the 3 generations, who have always been calm, was shocked is because Satoshi in the sky seems to be tired of destroying ordinary houses and streets. So he turned around and flew towards the Naruto rock in the distance. Tsunade also angrily said, "Damn it! The Naruto rock is Mai's face. If it is destroyed by the monster Satoshi, then I will lose a lot of face." 3 generations and Tsunade are not the only ones who are aware of Satoshi's behavior. Many of my ninjas on the ground are also aware of this. But in the face of this situation, no one could do anything because Satoshi's speed is too fast. Those who run on the ground obviously can't catch up with him in the air. On the roof of a high-rise building in the village, 3 generations, 4 generations of Kazekage, and their accompanying guards are all looking at Satoshi, who is rushing towards Mai's Naruto rock. 3 generations said with a gloating tone, "If the Naruto rock is destroyed by that monster, then I will be embarrassed." Their own rock village was destroyed by the Akatsuki organization. 3 generations already had a belly full of anger, and now Semi also suffer. Although they are currently allies, he still felt inexplicably happy. 4 generations of Kazekage sighed. "I didn't expect this monster to be so difficult to deal with." Dedale on the side was somewhat eager. "Old man, let me go and meet that monster." 3 generations Tsuchikage curled his lips. "Mai himself is not in a hurry." "Why are we in a hurry? You just stay here for me." Just when people with anger, anxiety, helplessness, and all kinds of thoughts were looking at Satoshi rushing towards the Naruto rock, a figure suddenly fell on the 5th Naruto rock's Naruto rock. Whoosh! At this moment, a gust of night wind blew past, causing the figure's Haoshin robe, which was covered with flame patterns, to flutter high in the air. "Hey, you want to destroy this place? Do you know how much money I spent to carve this head? Even if I agree, my savings won't be enough." However, the sudden disappearance of the Rorin survivors a few years ago caught the Sancrypsis off guard. When the 4 generations of Kazekage led a group of Sancrypsis ninjas to rush to the ruins of the ancient city of Rorin, the Dragon Vein had already been taken away. The furious 4 generations of Kazekage also sent people to question Mai at that time, but the 3 generations didn't know about it, so Mai's questioning of the Sancrypsis was naturally perfunctory. In the night sky, the battle between the 2 behemoths continued. Hyojin shouted, Entangle it. Under Hyojin's command, the dragon vein immediately entangled the body of Satoshi like a python entangling its prey. To deal with a flying monster like Satoshi that can perceive malice and has a nimble body, it is necessary to engage in close combat. Roar! Satoshi, who was entangled by the dragon vein, let out a roar and immediately waved its limbs, flapped its wings, and struggled violently. Satoshi not only has sharp wings, but the long claws on its limbs are also as sharp as knives. With a casual sweep, it can easily destroy the buildings on the entire street, so when it struggled, it was earth-shattering. Seeing Satoshi leaving claw marks on Ryomai's body, Suijin couldn't help but sigh. At this time, the dragon vein was not a real entity, but an illusion formed by the dragon vein chakra. In terms of physical strength, it was far inferior to the monster Satoshi. That was why Satoshi's scratches were able to leave deep scratches. However, Hyojin could not completely remove the seal of the dragon vein and release the entity of the dragon vein. This was mainly because the appearance of the dragon vein was slightly special. To put it simply, it did not look too serious. Once the true appearance of the dragon vein was revealed, it was likely to harm the reputation of Hyojin, the fifth-generation Naruto. Another reason was that there was only a shadow clone of Hyojin in the village. If the seal of the dragon vein was completely removed and the entity of the dragon vein was released, once the dragon vein went berserk, a shadow clone would not be able to handle it. Boom! The two behemoths fought from the air to the ground, and from the ground to the air, destroying a large number of buildings along the way. Not to mention the fact that the chakra state of the Ryomyaku was becoming more and more difficult to suppress the enlightenment. After all, without a physical body, using chakra to resist is too much of a disadvantage. At this moment, Satoshi suddenly opened his mouth as if to condense a jade-tail beast and bombarded the dragon vein that entangled him. Not good. Hyojin's eyes narrowed when he saw this.